All right, I think we're good to go. Hello, good evening, everybody, or the afternoon if you're way on the West Coast. It's good to see you all. Welcome back to another live stream here on the Unfocused Faith on the Thought channel. I'm your host, Henry, and our special guest, Ethan, will be here very shortly. Tonight, we're going to look at not Maps of Meaning, the book, but rather we're going to look at Peterson's early lectures from 2015 when he did this series and posted them on YouTube. So we're going way back 10 years ago. Jeez. Anyway, so be ready for that. I don't anticipate us going on and finishing the first of these lectures. It is like 2 hours, and there's going to be a lot of pausing and discussion, I imagine. I don't want to just run the video and do the like lame Twitch streamer thing that was like a big problem just a couple years ago. That's not my vibe. Interaction, conversation, questions, all that jazz. So, as always, as we're doing this, as Ethan and I are going through, if you so wish, I think I'll let it slide. If you so wish to share your unfocused thoughts with us, and maybe possibly pertaining to what we're discussing with the video, you are more than welcome to do that. Come hang out with us. Like I said, Ethan will be here shortly, and we'll get started. Let's see. We were talking about maps of meaning. Ethan and I were discussing. I'll bring it up later with him, but we were talking about like the artistry of maps, and maybe I'll hold off and discuss that with him in a minute. But I will get some resources for that pulled up in just a sec. Last week we talked about adventure and finding adventure, and I technically did go on an adventure, I guess. I was in South Tampa this weekend, dog sitting, and so I have some interesting stories from that time, if we've the time to do that. Again, though, I think I would like to try, for the sake of Ethan's time and his curiosity about these lectures especially, to respect that and try and do as much coverage of this lecture as we can tonight. South Tampa was interesting. I went to a mega church and had a bad experience there. And then I played a lot of Baldur's Gate 3 modded. I put a bunch of cool mods on it. That's what I did. So again, if you're coming in and joining the stream, welcome aboard. We are going to be looking at Jordan Peterson's Maps of Meaning lectures from 2015 tonight. We're going to look at the first part and again, see how far we get with that. So stay tuned. Stay tuned. I'm going to pull this up. Here we go. Should be here shortly. Ethan should be here joining us momentarily. Just pull that up. I guess tonight's sponsor is brought to you by StreamYard. There we go. I got away with using the free premium version last week with the 2 live streams I did, and I have teacher money, which means I cannot afford the real deal StreamYard. So from now on, all the fancy overlays, all the cool stuff I was able to do, gone. We are officially a corporate-owned live stream by StreamYard. That's how we do it here. So just be ready for that. Let's see. I wanted to pull this up and save this. There we go. Or not. Here we go. That's not going to work. Anyway, looks like we have very few people in the show right now. As we're talking about maps tonight, I'm going to pull up a map that I think is really cool. As we discuss again the artistry and the importance of maps. So again, very soon, our co-host will be here. Share screen. Here we go. So this is a map that I have framed in my kitchen. This is a map from 1972. This was a souvenir map, I think, of the Walt Disney Resort, the Magic Kingdom, the only one at the time. This is really cool. This is a really neat map. A lot of care was put into this, and you would never see something like this again. I really like the trees. The style here is very like UPC animation style from the time. It's very much of its time. It's a very much like a mid-century modernist vibe, and some of its sensibilities. But like, it's really cool. And you can't see it here, but the amount of attractions at any given spot, especially here in Tomorrowland, the dearth of it there is really interesting. Really interesting. But that's enough of looking at those maps. Oh my god, I didn't put it up on the stage, and so nobody saw what I was looking at. Good lord. Here it is. Really, really killing it. We're looking at a map right now while we wait for Ethan. This is a map of the 1972 Magic Kingdom souvenir map, or a picture of it. I have this framed up in my apartment. It's really neat. Mid-century, modern type stuff. Really, really well done. The level of craftsmanship here is not found anywhere else. Not anywhere else. It's very rare to come across this kind of stuff, especially in the digital age. So I'd much appreciate this. I think it's really cool. Yeah. Maps. Anyway. As I already said, tonight's stream is brought to you by StreamYard. The corners go to live stream tool. Very cool stuff. I want to stop sharing that. There we go. I guess as we also wait, I'll pull up some other junk. So give me just a second. So we're going to give us some time. All right. So momentarily, Ethan should be joining us, and then we will get this show on the road. Very looking forward to this. I've never looked at these before. When I got into Peterson, as we've kind of discussed before, it was in the political route, and then I kind of just piecemealed and looked at whatever I wanted to. Here he is. Let's go. Hello, Ethan.
What
Just vibing, just kind of running my mouth and playing stock music off of StreamYard.
how long have you been running your mouth for?
Not very long. I had like the
Shame I
little.
missed it.
I mean, I didn't really say anything. I was kind of wait for the fun stories because I did try and do adventurous stuff this weekend.
All right, go for it.
Okay. So I went to South Tampa to dog sit, and
How far away is South Tampa? What up, Sam?
45 minutes from me, 35 minutes. So it was a trek. It was foreign territory for me. I had not been there before. And so I stayed at my friend's apartment and took care of his dog. And I went to breakfast and I went to dinner at like a bunch of different places every night. So I was there Friday through Monday. I went to a big mega church and had a really bad experience there.
Say more.
Yeah, I'll start there. That was like the first thing, because otherwise the rest of like this and like the other story, I really just played Baldur's Gate and watched Better Call Saul. That was as adventurous as it mostly got. But
Two good choices. Two good choices.
it was a pretty good weekend. Anyway, so I went to Radiant Church. We'll just drop it. It's like a big one in the Tampa area. And I was like, I'm gonna meet people. I'm gonna talk. It's gonna be cool. I pull up. It's way too busy. It's overcrowded. The coffee bar's there. It's already not my vibe. Everybody's like in South Tampa is like really attractive, but in like you probably should stay away from them because they're trouble kind of way. And that's like what the entire church was in there. Like all the young people, you're like, yeah, you just hit the gym and you were at the club the night before. Like I know exactly what this vibe is, and it's not my vibe. So everybody's there, and I'm standing around waiting. This lady who works there's got this bucket for like the 2-in-1 communion wafer juice packet things. Be like, if you want to take communion with us today, come get one. And like, I was like, wow, we're really struggling to do this. So I'm standing there and I have my backpack with my medical supplies. This guy turns around and comes to me. He's like, hey, yeah, I'm talking to you. Wasn't very friendly about it. I turned around. He's like, yeah, we at the church, there's no backpack policy. And so I'm going to have to take that. You can get it back at the end of the service. And then like, I'm around these other people who have, mind you, made no attempt or initiative to maybe have a conversation with this new person standing around kind of aimlessly. So I'm like giving my backpack up like 5 minutes before the thing starts. I've had no conversation with anybody. And then, they're passing out these communion packets, and the rest of it was just kind of the regular megachurch vibe. The music was so loud, I could feel it in my bones, in my heart with the bass and stuff. And that's already not my vibe. The actual communion was really weird. It was like open communion, and they did it in like 10 seconds. They're like, if you're a follower of Jesus, we want you to do this, but if you're not, don't do it. But okay, let's like take a second and like pray, to like prepare your heart for it. And then everybody like takes it like shots, and then like the music keeps going. And I was like, so I like, if by adventure I made myself extremely uncomfortable at a big church because I thought I could like meet and socialize with people. And then I left.
I now have a strong desire to take communion. Well, shots.
Yeah,
shots,
right.
Shots. Playing. I really want to experience this now.
It was so weird. It was the weirdest thing. There was no reverence. It was so bad. And the lesson, like the sermon was all right. It was out of 2 Samuel with like the David and Bathsheba thing. And I think it was the most open conversation about sexual ethics I've ever heard in front of a pulpit. But that clearly went over the heads of people because I was walking back out to the parking lot. I lit like behind me, I could just hear people talking about their like exploits of the night before. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like it was so weird.
What were you expecting?
I have no idea. Less. I think it was just because that really bad first impression was like rough. Because like I think the service was pretty fine. Like the actual message was pretty good. I guess I anticipated the music, but that first impression left like a really bad taste in my mouth for the rest of the time. And then I had to walk and retrieve my backpack from the closet.
Yeah, I mean, all that sounds pretty typical.
That's just not my thing.
Have you been to a mega church?
I went to a big like Southern Baptist mega like revival one, but it wasn't like in that same vibe. I also knew people there at the time and was with somebody. So like going it alone was like probably the problem.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big place to be wandering about and to have no like orientation for sure.
I should
What
have gone to the booth to get a free t-shirt. Missed that opportunity.
what are you gonna do
I
with that t-shirt?
have no idea. I wouldn't do that. That
Cut the
was just,
sleeves off?
I have no idea.
Wash cars in it? Or
I
with it?
guess. Yeah, I don't know. Use it as a
I've never
duster.
even seen you in a t-shirt. You're always in a polo or a button.
I wear t-shirts as undershirts actually, and then like on my downtime, if I'm at home, I'll throw my hoodie on and I'll wear a t-shirt under it.
Nah, stop wearing t-shirts. No more t-shirts. Just hoodies and polos and button-ups. No t-shirts.
Fair
Burn
enough.
them all.
All right. Well, there we go. There you have it. I will say, every night I would put on a polo and I put on some nice pants every place I went to like breakfast and dinner. So I really try to. So that was one part of the adventure. And then the second one.
Did you
and I'll make
enjoy
it,
doing things by yourself in a new place? Did you enjoy
yes,
like feeling like a stranger everywhere?
I did, except for at the
Yeah.
church.
Well, I mean that makes sense.
Because then I went to this real. Okay, so I grew up in like a bunch of like with my parents, like going to all these like local dive bar type places where it's just like cheap beer and bar food. And I found that one of those spots in South Tampa, and I went to like twice for dinner, 2 nights in a row. The first night was all right, and then the second I really enjoyed it. $4 Coors Light drafts and a really good Cuban sandwich and live music Sunday night.
Now
And
we're
so
talking.
it was really awesome. Like she was super talented too, the performer. Real like Southern country vibe, but then like also had like who is it? She gave me like KT Tunstall vibes in her vocals, her like voice color. Never mind.
Never heard.
You can look that one up later. I can't play the music on the stream. Anyway, so
I
she was
probably
really
won't,
cool.
being honest.
Okay, that's fair. So then I'm sitting there. I'm really enjoying this music. And then this group of women, probably in their late 30s, early 40s, are like straight off the boat or like the beach, I guess, because it's South Tampa, wearing those like lame things to cover your swimsuit. And they're all sloshed. And there's like 2 dudes with them who I guess were their husbands. And then like this is like a dive bar, like wooden floors, wooden walls, kind of like real quiet type place. And they come in here with the live music and they start treating it like it's a nightclub. And I was like, what is happening? It was
Just
so
ruined your whole
weird.
night.
It didn't ruin it. I was like morbidly, I don't know. I didn't leave. I just kept watching because I was like a beer in and like still eating my food. So that was interesting to watch, which was not the vibe I was expecting. So that went on for like a good 45 minutes to an hour while I was there. And I just kind of watched this whole thing play out. That was interesting. That was adventurous, I suppose. Or like the chaos came to me.
Well,
And
you mean you're out in a wooden dive bar? It's gonna find you.
yeah. And then I went back and I watched Better Call Saul. And that was my Sunday night. That was my adventure. And I played Baldur's Gate with mods. I put in a bunch of cool like drip aesthetic stuff in it.
But by drip, do you mean water dripping? Or you mean clothing?
Like clothing. I got this like cool armor and stuff to start out the game. So I basically cheated, but my characters look way cooler. Anyway, that's enough of that. That was the adventure that I had. Oh, and then like I said, I got some other stuff coming up eventually. So for that.
You have
With,
other
like,
stuff coming up eventually. What does that mean?
Yeah, like I'm gonna go to that concert. I'm gonna go to Georgia for a concert for like my favorite artist. That's
Oh,
on the
so
docket.
who's your
I put
favorite
that on the
artist?
calendar. Jess Ray. I've plugged her on the channel before. She does
Were
like
you talking about her
indie.
in your music
Mhm.
TLC? Okay, yes, I listened to one song. I did listen to one song.
Okay, so she's performing last night of her tour in Georgia. So Lord willing, I'm going to drive all the way up to Decatur, Georgia, and
Okay.
for her show, and do that. I got the VIP pass, so I can like do the
Oh, wow.
Q&A thing and get like a yeah. So that's exciting. I'm looking forward to
Do you have your
that.
question picked already?
No, I'm sure I'll show up, ask a question, and if something else comes up, I'll just fumble the ball and just say nothing helpful or insightful. It'll be like showing up to the end of an estuary stream and being like, I like estuary. It'll be like that.
I mean, it doesn't have to be like that, but if that's how you want it to be, then sure, it could be like
Well,
that.
I'll have it figured out. Well, it'll be good. Anyway, enough of the pre-show. I guess. But how are you doing? Then we'll get started.
I'm good. My parents are over there. They're
Cool.
visiting Anchorage. We're going. We're driving to this town down the arm of Alaska, and then you take this trolley up into the mountains,
Okay.
and there's a cocktail joint up there.
Cool. Nice.
So, and apparently they have really good scallop bisque. So that's
Yeah,
the
that
plan
sounds
for
really
tonight.
good.
Yeah,
That's
fingers
exciting.
crossed. Fingers
Yeah,
crossed.
for sure. Well, without further ado, I have it queued up. We're going to watch the first of 20-something lectures in Peterson's 2015 Maps of Meaning series.
Oh boy.
Here we go. I do not anticipate getting very far into this. I'm sure there'll just be a lot of pause, talk it out, pause.
Well, again, you're in charge of the pausing, so your anticipation's telling me we're okay. Heard, got it.
I'm sure we are. But I also don't want to do like the lame, like, you know, that whole thing with like all the streamers that would like go on
Nope.
Twitch and make
I
money
don't
and they
watch
would
streamers. I got no idea
okay,
what you're talking
I don't
about.
do either. I don't either. But all these like doofuses would sit there, like eat their chips, and like they would do nothing, and they would just like run other people's content as like React channel stuff. Like we're not here to do that. So
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I've watched a little bit of Asmongold, so maybe that's kind of like that.
it's a step above. His stuff's better than, you know, the stuff that I think that people have the problem with. Anyway, here we go. Let me get this queued up. Share screen. Make sure I'm actually sharing the screen, because I did something one time where it didn't happen.
Oh, let's do that again. That was fun.
And we're going to add to stage. I'm going to remove this one. Add. Oh, there we go. Okay. Queued up. Got it pulled up. Did it. There he is. Look at him. What a different man.
So young and so fresh.
So crazy. It's such a departure. I don't know. It's just interesting. It's not a bad thing. It's just such a 10 years ago. 10 years will do that. And
I mean, let's pull up pictures of you 10 years ago.
we can.
I think it's going to be a bigger departure, if we're being honest.
My driver's license still has a photo of me from 10 years ago, because I did like the mail-in re-up for my license. And so my learner's permit photo is still my photo from my license.
I mean, you can fix that tomorrow.
Yeah, I don't want to go to the DMV tomorrow.
You can fix it next week. Just put it on the schedule for the adventure next week.
Yeah,
DMV.
right. Adventure at the DMV. All right, here we go. Tell me if the audio needs correcting or adjusting.
Heard.
Hi there.
It's good.
So welcome to Maps of Meaning. I'm going to tell you a story to begin with, and then we'll take a break. And after the break, then I'll give you more details about the class structure. If you want to know more about the class structure, all you have to do is go look at the syllabus online. If you type my name into Google, you'll get my website. And then all the courses.
You're going to get a whole lot more than that now.
You just go to the course website and it tells you everything you need to know. I'll give you just a brief overview for now. There's a main textbook, which I presume you may have already purchased, and perhaps not. It's available at the bookstore.
I don't have that textbook,
and then there's some adjunct readings that are listed on the website that are scientific papers that serve as appropriate additional background material, mostly concentrating on neuroscience material. And so that's the readings, and the order of the readings is also laid out on the website. In terms of assignments, there are three and a half in a sense, but the first one is I've developed some writing exercises over the last few years for students, and they're on a website right now called selfauthoring.com, which you don't have to worry about because you have access to the programs through this course website. I'll tell you about the two writing, the personal writing essays first. So there's
Should we
a
do
lot
these
of
essays?
evidence that
I was going to ask, did you do, I almost want to, and I was going to ask if you'd ever tried the self-authoring thing.
No, I looked at it and it was really similar to things I had already done.
Okay.
From, I don't know, Mega Church Land or Campus Crusade for Christ Land.
That's fair.
Or even Summer Camp Land. It's cool. I mean, it's essentially like Actually, it's what we talked about last time. We talked about like imagine your death and then go back from there. It's kind of like that.
I've done something similar in therapy where I think my therapist was like, I need you to picture like worst case scenario for your life, best case scenario for like, and just like map like the consequences of certain actions and stuff. So I would be down to try the writing exercise. It's not necessarily the maps a meaning thing, or like the future authoring thing. Because I think I dabbled with his actual thing once with like a free trial, and then didn't do anything with it.
Yeah. It's the audio is like it's quality. I mean, it's just simple and clean. Production's on everything, though. I'll tell you that.
No, this is great. I don't know. I dig this vibe. This is that like you find this on YouTube, just like scrolling. Like this is that hidden gem type stuff, and would have been at the time. You know, it's not hello, I'm with COVID experts. You know, and then dramatic music plays. It's always the dramatic classical music.
I mean, everybody's got a vibe, right?
It is. Well, Pageau has that vibe too, I guess. He does the same thing.
Yeah. So this is all brand new for you. I've watched this before. When I was watching this for the first time, I'm pretty sure I was counting screws in a stockroom.
Okay. I remember hearing that story with you and PVK. Okay, so you had a lot of time to listen to these then, I imagine.
Yeah, I was listening to a lot of things like this, old lectures of professors.
That's cool.
And then he appeared and was like, oh, there's like 20 of them. Great. I love a good series. And then I listened through them all. And I dipped back and forth, I think, to some of I'd like re-listen to some the day after.
Okay. So in 2015, I wasn't listening to Peterson. I was listening to people who would talk about like comic books for 2 to 3 hours on end. And I would pace my house as I took care of the dogs and watched the house for my parents. And so not the same vibe. I would have maybe enjoyed this though, if I were, you know, at the time trying to sink into that stuff. Because I was just looking for people to talk to about things. Or at least listen to these kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, I don't know when I first, it's probably 2017, 28. Well, I don't know when I first listened to what year. I have no idea. I'm really bad with years. I moved every year and had a new job every year. So time just doesn't really, doesn't work for me. Or I don't work for time. That's probably a better way to say it.
Yeah. All right. Well, if we do the writing activities, that'd be interesting. I also don't. Anyway, we'll get there.
Crude over the last 15 or 20 years, some of it stemming from the psychoanalytic tradition, that writing about your life fundamentally has extraordinary benefits, I would say. Some of them are health benefits, because it seems that, and this is something we'll cover to a great degree in this course, it seems that if there are elements in your past that you haven't dealt with, or areas of uncertainty in your current life or in your future considerations, then you bear a heavy stress load because of that. Your body really doesn't like uncertainty that much. And oddly enough, there can be uncertainty still in the past. You know, if things have happened to you that you really don't understand, your body and your brain seem to respond to that as if it's an area of dangerous territory that has the potential in some sense to haunt you. And one of the ways that your body seems to respond to that is by producing.
I was going to make like a quick comment. That's the trauma response, just in general, right? Something. Was it PVK brought it up in a video recently of like the concerns, like the way we map things? We're talking about this, right? A particular event has so many different sensory experiences attached to it that any given sense can in some way potentially trigger that trauma or that event again. Even if you're not conscious of that. Like I had that today, actually. I like caught a scent of something and like it brought me back to like not a good spot. I was like, oh man, why am I thinking about this? Really weird in that same response.
Well, yeah, it's wild. And just like, I mean, the fact that our brains and our bodies are so intimately connected, our minds and our bodies, and like, I don't know. I think it took me a while to like buy into that. I think I was more convinced that like my mind wasn't really a part of my body. They were separate entities.
Yeah.
I think for like most of my life, maybe 20, 25 years or something.
I think cognitively I understand that, and then I act like that isn't the case still.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not good for my health at times. So like if I'm really iron deficient, that ruins everything. Like not only is my body, am I in fatigue, but like my mental state is in the gutter because my body and my mind at the same time is also trying to work to keep up, like essentially survival, because I don't have everything necessary for proper functioning. So yeah.
Also, you
There's
should.
no.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Finish.
I was like the duality, like you can't split these things. Like the Enlightenment says you can, right? In so many ways, you can't split this stuff. You can't detach your one half of yourself to the other.
Yeah. Yeah. You should pin the link in the comments. I don't know how to do that. I've never done that before, but I know that you
pin the link to what, the video?
No, the StreamYard. Oh, I guess it's right there.
I'll do it again.
I suppose.
Here,
well,
I'll,
you just
I'll
pin
post
it. There's a way to pin it.
Oh,
That's
okay.
what people do.
Here.
Is they pin the link.
Put user in. No, don't ban myself. Here.
Oh, that'd be
Did
hilarious.
I started.
It's a different color. See, I'm learning things through you. I'm not clicking anything, but I'm learning things through you.
I can't pin this. I don't know how. It's not letting me.
I've never done before, so I can't tell you how it works.
Put user in timeout. I'm gonna host this and not be able to come back.
Be so funny. Okay.
Anyway, I'm gonna hit play.
High levels of stress hormones like cortisol. And the reason your body does that is because the more dangerous your environment is, the more you should be prepared to act rapidly at any given moment. And that's fine, except that it's costly from a psychophysiological perspective. You know,
my teaching
it's
job.
demanding. It's physiologically demanding. And what that means is that over any reasonable span of time, it actually hurts you. Now, so writing about your past, especially about things that were somewhat difficult and hard to understand, seems to lower the degree to which you're haunted by uncertainty. And then so I have one assignment for you, which is writing an autobiography. And there's a structured program online that guides you through that. And basically what it asks you to do is to divide your life into 7 epochs, stages, and then to write about what you experienced during those epochs, for better or for worse, and then to try to understand them and to articulate them. And partly I want you to do that because I think it's a thing that is good to do, especially for people your age, especially when you're stopping one thing, which you're going to be doing soon, and starting another. It's a good thing to get caught up. The other reason I want you to do it, though, is because this course deals with narrative and the psychology of narrative and the relationship between narrative and your own personal experience. And there's no reason not to utilize the theoretical propositions that we're going to walk through in a personal and practical sense at the same time that you come to understand them theoretically. So
yeah, this is very like self-improvement retreat. Yeah, that's a vibe. I had a question to pose, because he said, it's really important to write about your past or things that are presently difficult, so that things are less uncertain for you. Does that operate, or do those same principles apply in conversation, a la therapy, or just amongst friends, or what we do in this online space? Or is the writing itself the very tactile mind to paper kind of action, like unto taking notes? Is that the thing behind it? Is there a difference? Like, what's the difference? Not that I am expecting an answer, because this is not my area of expertise by any means, but like when you take notes on content and information, you're building synapses and connections between that which is heard and that which you have written down, and strengthening those connections for memory recall. So in turn, you can verbally reflect on certain ideas and questions, and then in turn writing them down. What is the difference in those things? I've done journaling, but I find it gets very circular at times with that.
What do you mean gets circular?
I find myself, when I've done journaling before, when I was in like probably like worse headspaces, reflecting on stuff, I would find that I was unable to, because there was no dialogue, kind of get out of potentially the negative feedback loops that I essentially created for myself that I was then writing out. I was almost affirming in the writing some of the own problems that I think I was creating or like processing. Like I was probably not the best way to do it. So if you're self-authoring and you're writing, can you run the risk of identifying a problem, writing out kind of its effect on you, and the effects it has, and then in turn being unable to kind of move past that? Or is it because you've written it out, you are able to like better confront it?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting if you did like a either a dialogue or attempted a short story. Even if you go like, well, I'm not really like a short story. Like, if you just made the attempt at it, because one of the things that happens when you like write something like a novel or in a form of a novel is like the different parts of you turn into characters.
Yes.
And then they like wage war between themselves, right?
Yeah,
and
I've
so
done
like,
that before.
Even in a dialogue, if you were to like have your journal and then have the character of God respond to you, or just some alternative, I mean, anything, right? Then it's like,
yeah,
that forces you into a different position than your position.
That's true.
It kind of forces you out of the, I would think, maybe, I don't know. It might end up forcing you out of that negative loop. But I also have done far more like creative writing than anything else in life. So
that's fair.
That creative adaptation, it kind of goes up a rung a little bit from just journaling, because I'm not just trying to like experience the feelings of my subjective inner experience, but I'm trying to like turn them into something.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like what an autobiography is, right? You're trying to turn your life into an object that can be looked at and viewed at.
And then you're also making narratively compelling.
Too,
in a way that life doesn't necessarily naturally unfold in the same ways. It's interesting, Peterson bringing up kind of the intro of like, we're going to talk about narrative. Like I remember a lot of the discourse, I think, around maps of meaning. Not that I listen to these lectures, but like if you listen to one part of Peterson, you're going to hear glimpses of him elsewhere, because he does have like a lowercase r rhetoric and like way of like bringing up information. And so I'm curious to see how much I actually am familiar with what he's describing later on.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if the familiarity, which you will have, is accurate or not.
Yeah, right.
Like I'm curious, like, oh, I heard this, and what I heard is not at all what he said or what he meant.
Yeah, I'll be curious too.
That's why this is fun for me, because I get to listen to this again, but I also get to like see how much of, well, like the goods, the treasure was culturally transmitted to you, if any. I have no idea.
We'll see. Here we go.
You'll be asked.
We're not even 5 minutes in.
It's actually the first assignment, and then that will be given to three of you. Each person's essay will be given to three classmates, and they'll provide feedback on it. So what I usually recommend is that you write the autobiography for yourself. The program will provide you with a complete printout. Then you can edit it, because there may be things that you want to write about that you don't want anybody to read. Now, part of the reason I instituted this was because it's impossible for the TAs to grade and assess that many assignments, because there's 3 assignments, and I don't know how many people are in the class, probably somewhere between 60 and 80, which I guess would be 70. Yeah.
My roommate did some TA stuff.
That's 210 assignments. Like that's just not going to happen. So, and I didn't want to cut the writing out of the class because I think it's foolish to do that. So we use a peer grading system, and the way that works is that you get feedback from 3 peers, and you get the average of the best 2 grades.
Those are like all the things I forget about.
And then you're also marked on the feedback that you
I did
provide.
What 5 days
now, what's
ago?
happened in the past, although this wasn't something I
like those. I like the really small stuff too, because I used to be real meticulous. I think I can talk over the course intro. I think we're okay.
The autobiographical essays of their peers.
I'm gonna just put the captions on and mute it, and I'll just double check when he starts talking about relevant things again. Maybe that'll help speed the process up. Anyway, yeah, I love the mundane, because I used to be really meticulous in like recounting what I did on any given day. And so I have dates from like when I met friends that I would not have remembered otherwise that they can't recall. And that's really sweet. And that's a really cool thing. And sometimes it's like the dinners that I had with them, or like a really lame moment that I'm sure they don't care about, but I really care about. And that's really cool.
Set it up so that when people use it, they can post their final product online and have people comment on it, and then have the comments voted up or down, you know. So I'm thinking about, or planning to develop a site where people who are interested in psychology could go and practice their skills, because it's very useful for people to have feedback on what they've written, you know, if it's constructive feedback. And constructive feedback should be something
He's
like,
always an
"Oh, you know, I
entrepreneur.
really didn't understand what you
He
meant
was,
here,
and this is
seemed kind of
absolutely
vague,
not the
and,
direction
you know,
he
I
went.
really liked what you did here. I think it's clear. I understand what you're doing. It seems to be well articulated and delineated." And so that's the next stage of the project, and that'll be coming along relatively soon. But anyways, for now, you'll start with the autobiography, and I would recommend that you start it now. Well, like not this second, because here we are in this class, but you know, as soon as possible, because it's actually quite demanding. And if you wait, you'll find that you can't do it, and then you'll be annoyed, and you know, the whole purpose of the exercise will be lost. Plus, it's also extremely useful to do it over multiple occasions and sleep in between writing sessions, because the evidence seems to suggest that
No all-nighters
if
on this
you're
one,
doing
guys.
autobiographical and exploratory writing, that you need the downtime to sleep in order to consolidate the changes you're making in your representational structures. And so doing it over multiple periods is, first of all, it's the only way really to do it, because it's too difficult to do it in one sitting, but it's also more beneficial. Now, one thing you might think about, and this appears to be the situation, is that your personality is actually organized at the highest level of analysis through articulation. You know, because you're a hierarchical psychophysiological structure. That's one way of looking at it, and that structure has to be organized and unified, because otherwise you're like a collection of warring spirits, and that's not an efficient and effective or happy way to live. It involves a lot of suffering. And so the more you're able to articulate yourself as an entity, the more clearly defined you are, and the more the consequence of that clear definition and unity is that you're not going to be a house that's divided unto itself. And that's an extraordinarily useful thing. I mean, one of the goals.
All right, I'm going to pause there. Is it important to have a life narrative?
I think it's important to be able to travel through your life as a narrative. Because like, if I couldn't create a narrative from my life, then it would be meaningless. It would be all disconnected. And I think it's important for me that I can see my life as a narrative, because that allows me to look forward and to imagine where my life might go, and then to imagine like a good ending, and then take steps towards that good ending. I feel like he's going to say something really similar to what I just said, and it's like, yep, I'm just aping this class, and I'm remembering it as we're in it.
Yeah, I like that. I think that I'll think of, what is it? Pajot talks about the patterns. There's patterns to reality, and in turn, there's going to be patterns in your own life, and there's going to be recurring themes. Like, I've experienced that, and you're going to have moments that are oddly similar or reflective of that which has come before, and those give you opportunities to either respond differently or respond similarly. And so having a life narrative, or at least maybe understanding the key thematic, like what are the core themes of your life, I guess, I think was really important to understand how you are probably going to react in the future, or potentially how maybe you should stop reacting in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, having been in a serious relationship for a couple of years now, some of my like tragic flaws repeat, and I like see them through the eyes of Jane, and that is like really good motivation to like change.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
Here we go.
Michigan man himself.
Yeah, I just want to say hi real quickly, but I've got to mow my lawn. I've got like an hour to do it before sun sets. But I guess I'm wearing a church T-shirt. I noticed. I guess that ties into me. There you go. Grace Ann Arbor. I would recommend going there, getting this shirt if you're in Ann Arbor.
Duly noted.
Yeah, but yeah, no, my lawn is. Here, I'll show you guys my lawn real quickly. It's quite long. It's not like
see the lawn.
long, but it is long enough.
It.
It needs to be done, and I'm going out of town at the end of the week. So there you go. That's what it looks like.
Here we go. The lawn, everybody.
Yep.
Oh yeah, look at that. And it froze.
Frozen in
Lost
time.
Sam to the yard. We've lost him to the chaos of the
Okay. Yeah. No, I was just gonna say we've had a couple days where it's rained, and then a few where it was like not that hot, but there's been Canadian wildfires going on, so the air was like really nasty. So even though it was only like 80 degrees, it felt really bad outside. Like it's just if I was outside at all. But all right, I'll let you guys get back to Dr.
Absolutely. Thanks for dropping in, sir. Have fun cutting the lawn.
Later, yo.
You gotta mow your lawn, because otherwise the dragon of chaos that is the weeds will get you and put you in a gulag.
What did I sign up for?
You know full well you invited me to go onto your on the conversation, and now you're here in my domain, which is a different kind of chaos.
Ain't that the truth?
All right, maybe Peterson will finally start talking about the lecture content instead of the
No,
course.
we're still in syllabus. This is 2 hours of syllabus.
2 hours of syllabus.
Bring order to the syllabus.
You're right.
For most clinical processes is the integration of the personality, right? To make you an individual, and an individual is something that's not divided. And the autobiographical exercise will help with that. And students have claimed in the past that they've been able to put a lot of things that have been disturbing them to rest as a consequence of writing through it and thinking about it. Now, you know, there's nothing particularly magic about writing, but there is something magic about thinking. And there's something particularly magic about thinking accurately and precisely about important things, you know. And the advantage of doing that through writing is that you can be much more precise and accurate, because you get to externalize your thinking, right, which is what you do when you write it down, and then you can think about what you thought about. So you can engage in a recursive process that enables you to sharpen up your words and sharpen up the representations and extract out the proper causal
Yeah, Luke
relationships
Thompson,
that
writing's
make up
great.
your
Yeah.
I'm just going to call out people, and they'll never see me call them out. It's going to be great.
All right, do it. I like that.
experience. And, you know, the point of memory, people think, well, the point of memory is to remember the past, and that's complete rubbish. That's not the point of memory at all. The point of memory is to extract out useful information from your experience, so you don't run into the same wall repeatedly.
There's
as
that
you move
common
through
themes
life.
thing.
And so if you have things in your past that you don't really comprehend and that are still disturbing you, what that means in some sense is that there are areas of the world that you don't comprehend well. And that's not good, because those areas exist. Even though you encountered them in the past, that doesn't mean they're gone. And it also means that there are places in your past that are in some sense loaded with information that you can extract, and in some real way you make your psyche out of the information that you extract from your experience. It's a kind of a Piagetian presupposition. I mean, your psyche, your personality comes from somewhere. It just doesn't emerge out of nothing. And so you can mine your past for information that you have not completely comprehended, and in that way you can expand your personality and your competence. And so I would also recommend, and because this is
he
also
talking about
a
the collective
motif of the
unconscious?
course, when you do the exercise.
He's going there. He was talking about Piagetian theory of personality development. And God, I haven't taken educational psychology in 5 years, so I don't remember that because we talked about Piaget's theories. But I think he's getting at like it comes from your personality comes from somewhere. It's not from nowhere. But I don't think he actually answered it in that.
Well, I mean, he's got another 20-part lecture series on personality,
Right. Oh,
which is
okay.
also very good from this
Okay.
same era of his life.
Man, if
Yeah,
I
I mean-
didn't listen to things exclusively on Apple Music or Apple Podcasts, I guess I would probably dive into this more on my own, like as car ride drives and stuff. Maybe I should get that YouTube Premium so I can turn off the screen and just listen to these podcast style.
Oh,
You know what I mean? Like I can't just run a YouTube on my phone in my car for 2 hours without one killing my battery and like messing up my service.
yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah, I mean, personality comes from. That's interesting. Yeah. Also, we said earlier about like you are a collection of warring spirits.
yes.
When people author their stories, they find rest. That's also interesting.
That is interesting. I was going to pull up Piaget's theory really quick. Oh, I kind of remember this. It's just cognitive development. It goes through 4 stages and it's talking about children's like thinking processes. So you go from sensory motor, which is just the basics, like grasp of the world, manipulation. Pre-operational is symbols and language. Right. That's your phonemic awareness, your association of like letters and numbers with their meaning. But you can't necessarily logic and reason your way into anything, right? That's like the why question that continues to come up. You have concrete operational stage. Children are more logical in their thinking, right? They begin to maybe think more objectively or critically about that which is presented before them. And then the phase in which I wish my students were at is the formal operational stage, in which students are able to think abstractly and solve hypothetical problems. So there's 4 stages. And the last one is the one you're essentially on, like the track you're on for the rest of your life. So
Interesting. The track you're on for the rest of your life.
I would just say that like the ability to think abstractly and solve hypothetical problems in that kind of critical thinking, I think can be developed and evolved continually through the rest of your life. Like that's not fixed.
Yeah. I guess it's weird that because Piaget was it's children, right?
Yeah. Specific. Yeah, because this was from educational psychology stuff that I did.
Yeah, you would think there'd be more stages as you get older. You know what I mean? Like there's 4 stages when you're a child, then you develop, and then it's like, okay, you're done. Like we have nothing else to like grasp after that.
I don't know. I guess that's where we leave it up to like the Maslow's hierarchy of needs and some of that stuff. And I guess you can mess around with that and see how that kind of connects. Not that that's one and the same, and I'm not going to like claim that, but I offhand from what I remember of Psych 101 and those courses, I don't remember exploration of like adult psychology development. Well, because like the mind also then like you can reset, like you can experience something traumatic and then essentially have to go back to some of those stages, right? If you mess up and like lose the ability to like either walk or like some other kind of motion, you're going to go back to the sensory motor stage in some way. It may not be 1-to-1. It may not be exactly what it was like as a child, but you know, that program will come back hopefully, right? In relearning certain things. Maybe. I mean, 4 stages is really broad. I think it's a decent model. It's not something that I think about all the time when I'm working with students, but anyway, Piaget. But back to Peterson.
It's like, pay attention to your words because you're using your words to construct your personality.
Okay.
You know, and that's, I mean, one of the great discoveries in some sense of human culture is that there's a relationship between the word and the construction of the world. It's a fundamental relationship, you know, and if you're precise and careful with your words and with your writing, then what you call into existence for yourself is a well-defined, sharply defined personality and a sharply defined world. And that's one in which you can act and obtain the consequences of those actions that is necessary to sustain you. So I would say, if you treat this exercise like a class exercise, then you're missing the point completely. It's not a class exercise. It's something that's designed to bring you up to date, to free you from your past, and to allow you to move forward into the future untrammeled by things that you might be dragging behind you. So there are instructions in the program that tell you what state.
I really appreciate this, like what Peterson is doing with this, as like, this is technically course material, but this is also for your own good and for your benefit. Like, this is very much his, I'm in the classroom, and I'm in the office hours, and I'm in my office with clients kind of work. Like, I don't know, that's really sweet. There's something nice about that, that I don't think probably exists in a lot of spaces in academia. It didn't exist for me in any kind of capacity.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was a really interesting professor. I think he was doing really interesting things.
So it's just sweet. It's like, not only are you going to get the credit for this, but you're going to figure out a lot about yourself, and at the same time receive the material to help you process that which you're discovering about yourself. That's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think just like his care for human beings has always been present.
Yeah.
State of mind to place yourself into, but I'll describe it briefly now. You want to be in something that's like a reverie. You know, when a reverie is like, it's a state of mind that allows you in some sense to daydream. You know, sometimes when you're sitting and you're not necessarily focused on anything, which is increasingly rare these days, your mind will wander, you know, and sometimes it wanders into the future, and sometimes it wanders around problems that you have from day to day, and sometimes it wanders into the past to sort of circle around things that are still consuming you, and that's the state of mind you want to be in. So you can bring up to the surface issues that are relevant and important, and then start to articulate them and to address them, you know, as the relatively well-educated adult that you are now. So, you know, sometimes people are hurt by past experiences because they're too young and too cognitively naive and unsophisticated to actually understand what's going on and to place it in a broader context. And the fact that you're, you know, you've become educated, and that you're well, mostly that you've become educated, you may have the opportunity to reconstrue and recast some of the things that you've been thinking about, you know, and carrying along behind you. So that's assignment 1, and I really would recommend get at it, because it's not something you can do in the last moment, not without causing yourself misery and grief. The third assignment is the same kind of writing exercise, except it's about the future. Now, one of the propositions that this course is predicated upon is the idea that you're always in a cognitive schema that contains at least 2 points of reference, and one is point A, roughly speaking, and one is point B, roughly speaking, and that your life is a continual journey between point A and point B, and point A is the present as you construe it, and point B is the future that you're heading to. And in any moment, you're operating with both those poles active, regardless of what you're doing, because you're a goal-directed creature. You're always aiming at something. And in order to obtain what you're aiming at, and in order to keep the structures that you're using to organize your experience functional and pristine, you need to have a well-defined sense of where you are now, and you need to have a well-defined sense of where you're going in the future and why you're going there. Now, this exercise, which is the third assignment, asks you to put yourself in the same state of mind that would be particularly appropriate for the past authoring exercise.
Do you have an aim?
You're projecting yourself.
Do I have what?
Do you have an aim?
Do I have an aim? Actually, it's funny.
Do you feel like you're aiming at things?
It's funny you say that, because I actually sat down today and did some, not future authoring per se, but I asked myself, I was like, okay, if what I want truly in life, right? That kind of companionship. If that's not going to be afforded, maybe in its completest sense, in like until like another 3 to 5 years, where do I want to be and who I want to be in 3 to 5 years? Should that arrive at that point? And so I sat down and did that, not necessarily in terms of a lot of it was character and a lot of it was less circumstantial work today. But I made a list of that which I would like to be, or that which I would like not to be present in my life.
So you got a concrete aim.
I think so. I think the thing is like I think their goals, they're still kind of abstract insofar as I'd have to look at them again and say, okay, how do I achieve that state of being, or how do I achieve this character, or how do I achieve this philosophy or perception of the world? So I think they're concrete insofar as maybe more definite ideas of who I'd like to be in the future. But insofar as the actual, like the process, that's really vague and abstract.
Do you know SMART goals?
I do. They're specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time sensitive.
We used to do those all the time in mega church land.
We had to do that in education, and I was doing something with some friends one time, and it ticked them off so bad because I just kept saying it. Maybe it was in church because we did it in the church. Maybe that was one of the things we adopted, and I was being really coy about it. Like, remember your SMART goals, and they were like, "Stop, please stop." But I think they are helpful.
Yeah, they can totally be helpful. And I feel like with what you're talking about, if it's like, I want to become this kind of person, if you can turn them into like sub goals, which is literally side quests, right? Like you just, and that's like the narrative part, right? So you turn your life into a myth, and then you see yourself as hero. I don't mean that like an overly positive way. I just mean like you're traveling, and
you
then
could be
it's
a
like,
very Greek hero, and that's not a good thing.
Yeah, you could be a Roman hero, all kinds of hero. You could be an American. Yeah. Because I feel like I'm at the end of some of these, like some of the goals I've had.
Yeah.
Well, sort of. I get married in less than 3 months now, which is crazy. I have so many side quests I have to go achieve. Woo! A lot to do the next 3 months. But yeah, and then I know that probably by the middle of next year, it's going to be like, what am I doing again? Like all the things I wanted to achieve, I achieved, some big things. Now it's like, well, what's next? And you're just staring out into the future going, oh.
Because I think I've been there for a while, just staring out and being like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And probably not since like I got out of college have I done like a reassessment, which is interesting. Because for the longest time for me in college, it was just kind of like survive and graduate. Because it was really rough. And so that was kind of the only things I was trying to do, was like see the end of the light at the end of that tunnel. That was the degree. And then, for a little while you're like, I have a job. I'm kind of comfortable. Things are okay. And I'm back at it again where I'm like, I'm not, this is not it. Something needs to change. So, and I guess it's the timeline for that's really fluid insofar as like the reassessment where it comes and stuff when it comes about.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it comes out of nowhere.
So it's interesting that you said that about the aim. I think subconsciously, probably I was also thinking about this and saying, is Peterson going to actually do, like, are these lectures actually going to do something for me now?
So you just skipped ahead and did the homework before it was even asked for?
I guess I did. No, I think it did come to my mind. I was like, okay, maybe this might actually be really beneficial insofar as like I didn't explore this stuff maybe to the depth of it 5 years ago as I could have, but it also wasn't necessary in the same way as I think it is now, or could be now. So anyway, we're gonna get ready for that Peterson Corner Revival 3.0, 3.5. I don't know.
3 to 5 years into the future.
Right, that's the timeline.
That ability, by the way, probably only emerges.
Shoot, I didn't even realize
the age that all you guys are. I've tried doing this exercise with high school kids, and they can't do it. So we're making a high school version where the kids have to think 3 to 6 months into the future.
Oh my God, I wish. Can I tell you? I didn't mean to pause it, but like, okay, so as a teacher, my students have no idea like the consequences of what they do or do not do. So I've had freshmen before, and they're like, it doesn't matter if I don't pass this class. I'll just do something different later. And you're like, no, you can't. They don't think far ahead. They don't think very far ahead at all. For multiple
Are they
reasons.
wrong? Are they wrong?
Unfortunately, they're not, because the system has kind of enabled this really, like, it's a struggle when you have a bunch of like these seniors that are like, I'm failing, and then like we managed to turn them out for graduation like in the most painful possible way in like 6 months. That's not rewarding. It's not earned. It's really difficult on our end as teachers and educators, but it's possible, and so that's enabled, unfortunately, through credit recovery programs being overly generous, I think, which is anyway. But like some of these kids just, they do not have the wherewithal to even stop and consider it, right?
But I mean, like, again, like if you live, and it's not just teaching, in my opinion, like
Sure.
if you live in a world or a nation or a city where like we have the technology and the ability to just like rescue people from things, and there's not actually consequences, and like you don't need the wherewithal.
No,
Like
that's
it'd be
fair.
better. It would be better if you had it, but like I think it's legitimate to say like I don't need that, and then they go watch me, and you go, oh, okay, well you were right. You didn't need that.
Yeah.
I don't think it's good for anyone.
No, it's enabling, I guess, a lack of responsibility, which is antithetical to, I think, a lot of what this is.
Yeah, I mean, I like, and I've had this personally where it's like I was supposed to fail at something, and somebody was able to come in and like rescue me from the failure, and then I never experienced failure. Like it took me many years before I like fell flat on my face.
Yeah.
And it was good for me to do that because I
Mhm.
didn't know what that feeling felt like.
Yeah. There needs to be more of that. And again, like the institutions don't help that, broadly speaking. So,
Yeah, I
wonder
think it climbs the ladder from institution to families to individuals. I mean, the whole stack.
Sure.
Like we have incredible technology that functions very much like godlike behavior.
Mhm. Anyway, so I wonder if that program ever did get put out for high schoolers. It's really interesting.
because that seems to be really all they can manage, you know. So, but you're at a point where you can cast a future self farther out, and so the idea is to put yourself in, to adopt a particular attitude towards yourself while you're writing while you're completing the exercise, and that attitude is, imagine that you're someone whose care you're charged with, so what I really mean is to sort of duplicate yourself and to take a particular attitude towards your future self. And so the idea is, if you were going to construct a future for a person, that person being you, and the future was optimized, not in some moronic dreamlike manner that involves yachts and supermodels, but something that's realistic and something that you can actually apply. So if you were constructing the future that would be best for you, all things considered, what would that look like? And so the first part of the exercise asks you to consider what I regard as the most fundamental dimensions of human existence. And you know those already. What makes up life? Career, family, friends, intimate relationships, activities that you undertake on your own time, and concerns that are related to health, including use of drugs and alcohol. So those aren't the only dimensions, but they're fundamental dimensions. And so what I'm asking you to do, and what the program will ask you to do, is to think, okay, if you could optimize your life along all of those dimensions, exactly what it would look like. Because one thing you can be sure of is that if you're not aiming at something, you're not going to hit it.
Mhm.
The other thing you can be sure of is, if you're not aiming at something, someone else will aim you at something for some reason, or some force that you don't understand at all will aim you at something, and you may end up getting something you seriously don't want. And I would not recommend that. Stumbling through your life aimlessly is not a good strategy. You can end up some terrible places, but you will certainly end up as a pawn of things that you may not want to be a pawn of. Now, we've used this program, we've tested this program quite thoroughly so far. We've used it to begin with, we used it for students at McGill who were struggling academically. So, you know, they were smart kids, but they were on academic probation, and they filled out the future authoring program and raised their grade point averages 25%, dropped their dropout rate by 30%. And so, which was quite stunning, because it's very difficult to improve people. You know, it's easy to make them worse, but it's harder to make them better. But then we've tested it now on more than 3,000 students at the Rotterdam School of Management, and over 4 successive years, we've raised the performance of the students 25% and dropped their dropout rate by 30%. Seems to be, in the Rotterdam samples, it was particularly effective for men, but we don't know what conclusions to draw from that, because it was it's a business program, and there was a minority of women, but they were outperforming the men, and we don't know if that's a gender thing, or if the women who were in the business program happened on average to be more committed and more intelligent, more conscientious than the men who were in it. But anyways, the point is that it'll ask you to consider those fundamental dimensions of your life, and to envision how they would be constructed if you could construct them properly. And then it asks you to write for 20 minutes after you've done that about what your future could be like in 3 to 5 years if it was optimally structured, free writing. And then it asks you to do something that's actually the reverse, which is consider all your inadequacies and weaknesses and stupidities and foolishnesses, and imagine what your life would be like if you really let them have the upper hand. So, and everybody, I think, has some sense of that, you know, because everyone has some sense of how they would go wrong if they were going to go wrong. And
That's interesting. That's the thing that I did with my therapist, was write down kind of worst case scenario based on particular faults. Where do you think that stuff would head long term, not necessarily the short term, but where should they be unfettered that take you or lead you, which is really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I always find that kind of thing very scary, to like imagine the kind of person I could be at my worst.
I did that writing experience. It was really pretty awful. And then I've had moments, not in the authoring of it necessarily, but like I've encountered things where as like a certain disposition kicks in, or like a mindset or like a response in my mind goes, I'm like, okay, this is like this is the natural conclusion of this, and this is scary. Don't go down this way. Like I've had that too. Not necessarily writing it out, but I don't know if you've ever had that before, of like an idea or a thought is conceived. And you're like, if this is continued, if this is encouraged, this is not going to go well. You become more unpleasant.
I've followed down the road and it hasn't gone well. Absolutely. I've had it both ways many times.
Yeah. So interesting. I just looked up Peterson's future authoring again, because like, you know what? I might do this. I'm not spending the $15 to do it necessarily. I think I'll just pull from these lectures and like structure it myself as an educator who can do these things and organize them myself. I might actually do some of the homework.
Yeah, I mean, $15 is not much. That's an easy.
That's an easy buy.
Easy pull. I wonder. I mean, again, I don't know. I'd be curious if any of this will be able to like improve or enhance. Probably a better word. Enhance your teaching. If any of like, it'd be if you're able to. Yeah.
That'd be nice. That would be really interesting. The other thing that came up that he said of like, if you don't have your own aim, you're going to be aimed in the direction of somebody else. I experienced that a lot, have experienced that already in education, right? If you don't, I'm pretty much a pretty easygoing kind of people pleaser. It doesn't take a lot for me to be satisfied. And at the same time, you can do a lot to ruin an experience. And I've been aimless with like the direction of education, like where I'm headed, which has put me in spots where I'm like, oh no, I'm going to get screwed over. Like I'm looking for new teaching positions right now because I got screwed over because I didn't have my own aim. And that which I was hoping to keep, and because that which I was hoping to keep, it was not going to play out and would not be kept or was respected. And so I find myself now where I'm like, yeah, I need to find a place in which I don't hate the work.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there are all kinds of people and things that are aiming and I mean, full of power, and that they have like a gravity about them. You get kind of caught up in it, and then you just get willed along, and you're like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? I don't want to do this. Like,
Yeah.
and then you're like, how do I get out of this? Did I sign a contract?
Yeah. Well, I had this thing where I was like, I want to keep this model of teaching. And then they were like, great, send this list. And then they were like, hey, if you can't do this, and you're not allowed to have this, basically, give us like your next best option. And I was like, well, I really don't want this to be my option. And I don't think what I wanted initially was ever considered. And they just were like, yep, you're getting this assignment. No questions asked. Without any real consideration for, one, why I was in it in the first place. Two, why it would be a bad thing for me to like leave that position. So because I tried to make and express those concerns, and it did not go well.
Okay, Sam must be sending things from the mower. There's no way he finished mowing his lawn that fast.
Yeah,
I don't
there's
want
no
to answer
way.
this. I don't want to answer this. Go mow your lawn.
In the rest of my life.
Okay, 4 big things. I want to get married.
Yep.
I want to have children. So that's one thing, but it's composed of multiple things. I'm going to cheat. I want to write a book. So that's 3.
Okay.
And accomplish. If I could accomplish, get married, have children, write a book, die a man of faith.
Based.
I still don't know what that word means.
It's just that it's a right. It probably comes from the right wing, like politics and stuff. It's like you have the right, correct take on something. That's all. But it's been watered down. No, I like those answers. What are my 3 or 4? I guess I should probably answer this as well. I guess get married as well. That's the whole reason why I did the future authoring. Like this reflection today was that I would like to be in a spot in which hopefully it plays out, and I'm not a total fool going into it. So that's one. I think I'd like to be in a space in the faith and in the church where I don't feel so much tension or like contrariness necessarily. As much as I like being a contrarian, it creates a real outsider's kind of feeling. So I'd like to be in a space in the body in which I'm not so contentious theologically with people, just under the surface. Not that I make that known. I'd like to be published as well in some way. I don't know what. And that's not related to my Lego articles that I've done. As much as I enjoyed those, I hit my peak already with that, and I'd like to do something else. And like I did what I wanted to do with that. So like get published in some other capacity. That's 3. Marriage. That's the big one. A space in the church in which I feel less tension and like outsidery in some respects. Whatever that looks like, and the publishing thing. I'm just gonna do that. I don't have a 4th one.
Yeah, I mean, Mick Moses, Mick Mo Suave himself.
Here, I'm gonna.
This man is. Do you know how handsome this man is?
He's
my goodness!
Handsome.
If I could be like anybody, oh my! If I could copy anybody's speaking style. Also, he hates compliments, but I'm not on his stream, which means I can compliment him as much as possible, and there's no strikes. Strikes.
Exactly. You're in my turf, McMo. Welcome to my channel. It's good to have you. And Ethan's here too. So Ethan can play by his.
We gotta keep it rolling.
By his rules.
We gotta keep it rolling.
It seems to me to be a very useful exercise to allow yourself to envision where you could end up if you didn't get your act together and put things straight. And to me, in some sense, what that means is that you're outlining your own personal heaven and your own personal hell. And it's useful to have both of those, because you can run away from what you don't want and you can run towards what you do want, and that's quite motivating. And one of the things I've observed quite regularly in my clinical practice is that people are often loath to make decisions that will cause conflict. So say, especially if they're agreeable people, say that you want to pursue a career path that your parents don't agree with, and it would take a fair bit of intense negotiation in order to free yourself up so that you could pursue that path. It may be just as easy to let it go from moment to moment, because that's conflict free, and end up doing something that you're not committed to. Then the question is then, though, where does that take you? And if you have a very, very clear idea of the kind of trouble you can get into by not facing the actual realities of your life, it makes you much more likely to fight for what you need to fight for in the present, because in some sense, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. So you might as well take the chance and struggle for what you want now. And so defining a negative future can also be extremely useful. So plus it's realistic. People's lives fall apart all the time. It's you can expect that your life will fall apart at some point in one way or another. So it's useful at least to prepare yourself so that that doesn't happen any more often than it has to. And that if you're going to engage in conflict and so forth in order to pursue what you want, that you have your rationale straight. So the third part of the exercise has you develop a fully articulated rationale for your vision. Now, there's a bunch of reasons for that. One is, if you're having a discussion with someone, I can tell you how the typical discussion about something important goes. If you're having a conflict with someone, it's usually someone close to you, like a person in your family. You'll bring up something they don't want to hear. Okay, so then they'll tell you 2 or 3 reasons why that's actually your fault and not theirs. And if you can, and sometimes that'll set you right back on your heels. It's the end of the discussion, especially if they're quite emphatic and maybe aggressive about it. If you can get past that and engage in the discussion and start to get somewhere, well, then they'll usually get angry at you. And then past that, they'll cry. And then past that, you can have a discussion. But in order to get to the point where you can actually have a discussion, you have to have your arguments set up like soldiers behind you. And so if you want to move towards a particular goal, you're going to run into impediments, and some of those impediments will be other people and the voices in your own head, for that matter. And the more deeply you have your rationale for what you want articulated, the more potent you are as a fighter for your own destiny, so to speak.
The stronger your rationale for your own aim, essentially what he's saying, the easier it is to overcome whatever obstacles or roadblocks hit it. Right? You can't have some sort of scattershot, flimsy aim, right? It needs to be pertinent, it needs to be salient, it needs to be built on something, right? Worthwhile. And in a way can be justified. That's just me like reciting back what I think I got from that.
Well, I mean, yeah, like practically is like, can you say no to someone who's important?
Right. Yeah.
Right. Like if somebody who's important comes to you and says, "Yo, Henry, like you need to do this thing," it's like, can you be like, "No, it's against my aim"? I think that's not an easy thing to do. It's not an easy thing to do if someone that's not important. Like we just don't like saying no. And then somebody with like, but then also like that's sin, right? It's like missing the mark.
It is.
Like all of this aiming language like ties right into what sin is. I mean, that's what I think.
What calls to my mind, what comes to my mind is like hating your brother and sister. In the Lewis, so C.S. Lewis like explains that in a way, right? Hate is a lesser love, or it's the hierarchy of loves, right? God, Esau whom I hated, but Jacob whom I loved. Esau gets away with a pretty good life. Ultimately, he has an inheritance. He has generations after him. He has nations established. Like God clearly doesn't hate him in the sense that we understand it, right? But Esau was not equipped or fit to be the progenitor and the source point of the nation of Israel, and is disqualified for that, and is loved lesser than Jacob and is found not in favor with him. So Lewis says that, right, if you love Christ, everybody else, you should be able to, if Christ is your aim, as we'll say, right, you should be able to then say, no, that's against my aim. No, that's against that which is the highest thing, my highest telos, that is that which is against Jesus. Yeah.
But what does Kierkegaard say?
What does Kierkegaard say? I don't know enough about Kierkegaard. I've only read like one essay. I'm the Lewis guy. I'm not the Kierkegaard. You're talking to McMo. Ask McMo. He was just here. He would know the Kierkegaard answer.
Nah, Kierkegaard don't have no answers. He's just got anxieties and troubles and depressions.
That's,
yeah, I mean, you and I, we're Jacob and Esau.
we are?
Yeah, I'm Esau, clearly, because I'm ruddy. I'm red and wild.
So you're going to sell me your inheritance for a bowl of soup.
I mean, if you got a nice mushroom soup, I'm a big fan of a good mushroom soup.
Good soup, hearty soup. That's
yeah, no, that what's the word? Is the word progenitor? I don't know what the word is.
Yes.
Or like, yeah, the younger. I've never quite understood that. I've always like looked at that pattern and been like, there's a pattern here. I know what the pattern is. I don't get it.
The progenitor is that which everything else descends from. That's the thing.
But it's like it's like the youngest. The youngest always inherits.
Right. Well, that's the model. That's the subversive model.
Yeah. And that's what I knew I didn't know the word. I only knew part of the word.
That's the pattern across Scripture. Because otherwise, it's the eldest by which that inherits things, and that's unfortunately, I think the reality that I live in is that the eldest is that which will be blessed most. And I don't say that as like a pride thing. There's a certain weight and issue that comes with that. Whereas consistently in Scripture, the youngest will be the last is that with whom will inherit the earth. The last is that with who will inherit what is good.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's like a direct tie into like the meek and the humble. If the first shall be last is all that is building to the meek and the humble. But I still feel like there's more going on in the Old Testament stories with that
we don't get.
Oh, well, I don't get. Yeah,
I don't get it. I mean, I understand it for what it is as a pattern, but I also don't understand if it's a prototype of that which is in the New Testament 100%. Beyond it being referenced later in ways in like the work of Jesus, like pattern in that. So when he says, right, take a seat at the lowest space, lest you are embarrassed and have to move to the lowest spot, right? The last shall be first, the first shall be last, more or less. That's like the paraphrase. I don't know if it's a challenge of the structures and the natural order by which things work. Because I think that's where some of that comes from, right?
Yeah, and even just like the strong and mighty don't have it all going on. God's up to more than just what the strong and mighty are up to.
Yeah.
I don't know. All right, we're almost 23 minutes into
awesome.
Lecture 01, lowercase a.
This is excellent.
And so the third part of the exercise asks you to think deeply about why it is that the future you want is important. And not only to you, because of course it's important that it's important to you, but also what effect moving towards the future that you actually think would be best for you, what effect that would have on your friends and your family and society at large, because those things also have to be taken into consideration.
That's good.
When you're constructing what you might regard as your destiny. And so these are very, very important things to get right.
What up, Seabax?
One of the things that's really remarkably pathological about our current education system is that this sort of thing isn't done more regularly, because I can't imagine since you're all university students, there's absolutely nothing more important than you can possibly do than to spend some genuine time contemplating who it is that you want to be as you expand yourself throughout life. There should be whole courses devoted to that, and there isn't, and there's weird reasons for that, which I'll get into later. But this gives you an opportunity to think, all right, maybe I could have what would be best for me, which by the way is different than what I want. Maybe I could have what would be best for me if I knew what it was and I was actually aiming at it. And my experience has been, like, I've watched people for many, many years in all sorts of different situations and over very long periods of time, because I've had a clinical practice for more than 20 years now. And I can tell you that if you know what you're aiming at, there's a pretty decent chance you can get it. And if you don't know what you're aiming at, then God only knows where you're going to end up, and it will not be a happy place. So it's very much useful to put some thought into this, and
This is so true.
to consciously take hold of and articulate what it is that you want for a destiny. And there's no reason to assume that you can't achieve it. You're all smart, you wouldn't be here. And you're all reasonably hardworking, or maybe extremely hardworking, or you wouldn't
reasonably
be here.
hardworking.
And a good chunk of you are probably creative. So, you have as good a chance of attaining what you could be as anyone. And so, I would say dream realistically, or maturely. That would be a better way of thinking about it. But also don't be afraid to be ambitious about what you want, because the world's full of possibility, and there's no necessary reason that you can't make use of that possibility. And I can tell you as well that you better make use of it, because although I'm sure you know this to some degree, some of you do anyways, life hits you hard and tragically multiple times throughout your existence, and no one escapes from that. And so the problem with that, apart from the fact that it's painful and anxiety provoking, is that it can make you bitter. And once you're bitter, you're a dangerous person and a miserable person. And so the only way to protect yourself against that happening is to have the kind of life that's rich enough and meaningful enough so that you can take the blows and accept it, because there's no way you can escape from the blows. They're an inevitable part of life. So your life better be rich enough so that you think, okay, well, on balance, the price I pay for being alive is worth it. One of the things we're going to talk about in depth in this class is the social consequences of failing to do that, because bitter people are extraordinarily dangerous from a sociological and a political perspective. And so, the ranks of the totalitarians of the past are full of people who were arrogant and resentful. And the steps past arrogance and resentment are murder and genocide. And so the less of that, the better. So part of the utility in putting your
I don't
personal
know if I want
house
to
in
answer
order is that
Seabax's question.
What is up with
like
people
to see
just
a
showing up and
catalog of
asking
course.
really hard questions?
I don't know. What is TLC aimed at? I don't think I'm the guy to answer that question.
Well, you start.
What is TLC aimed at? I think TLC is ultimately aimed at constructing a map of the world that is meaningful and very much takes into consideration the foundations of Christianity. I think specifically, I'm just going to use that bias. I don't think you can escape that, despite what maybe some of the more atheist or like agnostic individuals might be have to say. But I think that's it's construction of something new to help pave the way for Christianity, but better. I don't know. That's me at spitballing. It's so that not for Christendom's sake and not for like a new Christian state, but for its own sake, by which to navigate the very uneasy, unsteady waters that lie ahead with major developments socially, geopolitically, etc. That's my answer to the question, Seabax. I hope that is satisfactory.
Do you know about Sanctuary? Oh no, not Sanctuary. cities of refuge
No.
from the Old Testament?
No. Oh, here. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Sorry, I didn't Google it. Those are established pretty quickly in the Torah, right? You can go hide in these spaces lest some sort of accidental murder or like manslaughter and these things occur, or you're an outsider, and you're safe in that space and you're kind of detained there, but at least you're not dead.
That's what I think the flotilla is. I think it's a city of refuge.
Okay. City of refuge from what specifically?
Whatever you need it to be.
Okay.
Right? I mean, like, it's just
Yeah.
if you need refuge, there's this flotilla on the river of time, and it's like it'll welcome you in.
It's the
And
room
like
of
there's still
requirement.
certain ways you have to behave, right? You can't like continue to murder people. There are some minimum rules you have to follow, but you can still like remain a stranger in a city of refuge, and you can live on the skirts of it, and
You can lurk.
you can lurk. Yeah,
Or you
but
can
like there's room.
participate.
Yeah, I mean, slowly but surely, right?
Yeah, you can find
Slowly and surely.
and surely. Yeah, you can find new life in that sanctuary. It's not over. I like that answer. I hope that is also satisfactory.
On the sociological and political stage. So as far as I'm concerned, this is extremely important work. And we already know from the empirical evidence, strangely enough, that it seems to have a very profound effect on people. So, all right. So the other assignment is an essay. You can write an essay on your choice of topic, as long as
Did you think we were done with the syllabus?
Intelligible way.
No, but
course material.
I didn't realize that we didn't talk about the third assignment yet.
And it can be a scientific essay, it can be a philosophical essay, it can also be a creative project if you want to do that. Although if you choose to do a creative project, then you have to write a commentary on it. So in some sense, you have the opportunity to engage in whatever project you'd like to engage in, as long as
I liked your
it has some
VNA
relevance to the
lunch
class.
video that I
So
saw on
there's those
X.
three assignments. There's the readings, and then there's a final exam at the very end. And the final exam is multiple choice, strangely enough, but it's the stick that goes along with the carrots, because one of the things I've observed in the class is the reading is difficult, and you actually don't have to do it to participate in the class. And so, of course, people don't do it not because they're, well, sometimes because they're lazy and useless, but mostly because they prioritize their time, because their time demands are heavy, and
6
things that
a.m.
aren't absolutely crucial
6
don't
a.m.
get done. So
Well,
the exam makes it crucial
in the morning.
So if you do the reading,
forward to
you
it.
won't have any trouble with the exam. But if you don't do the reading, then you will have trouble with the exam. So I would say do the reading and stay caught up, because it'll make the course a richer experience, and plus you'll do better on the final exam. So that's basically the outline of the course. Now, what I'm going to do is walk you through the material fundamentally and try to explain more deeply why it's relevant. And one of my aims in this class is, like, I'm not a fan of information for information's sake. I think that it's a mistake to pursue information that isn't relevant. I mean, you can
There's a great moment in the first. Oh wait, sorry. You can say your things. Mine's less cool, probably.
Well, no, that's such an interesting comment to make, and like I believe him, and I wonder what happens to someone if you like have a weekly content schedule. Like at some point, information has to be for information's sake. If you have like a marketing machine driving you,
Yeah,
and then it becomes the thing that sets your aim.
Well, that's the doom. That's the fear of like the doom scrolling. That's the fear I have for my students of like they're just getting dumped garbage like every day, and they like let it happen, right? Algo determines that which they view. They have no awareness, I think, of what they should and should not be viewing, and it's not doing anything good for them. The other thing of like information for information's sake, if you're not having a critical eye about it, you're very quick to like co-opt just whatever the heck has been presented to you and you make it a part of yourself, without any real critical consideration as to like, do I actually align with this? Is this a part of my aim that I don't have, or maybe I do have? I maybe went a little bit different direction than you did, but like that's one of the dangers of it.
Yeah, I've been thinking so much about algo. Like, I don't really spend time in algo spaces. I just don't scroll much. However, I check. My problem is checking, right? So I don't scroll, but it'll be like, oh, I haven't checked in an hour. So like I'll do a check of everything.
Yeah.
I won't really scroll, but then I'm like, I have a compulsive, I'll be checking compulsively. Like, oh, check email, check Signal, check X, check Discord, check. Like, there's like 7 things now that I check. And then it's like, oh, well, there was 20 minutes of checking. I didn't scroll. No scrolling.
But I checked.
I'm doing a lot of checking.
That's interesting. Algo's weird because the other day I was using this YouTube channel to like do normal stuff. And then I like, for whatever reason, because I wasn't cognizant, clicked on, I think like a Baldur's Gate cutscene thing. And that was all the algorithm then gave me in my recommended. And I was like, this is weird. And then it's alongside a bunch of self-help stuff and sometimes politics stuff, just because that's the nature of what YouTube reads corner content as sometimes. And I was like, this is weird. Like that which is recommended and that what they determine they think I might like or want to continue to see.
Okay, can we take a closer look at Seabax's comment, riding the zeitgeist?
Yeah.
Because I read it, I went, and then I reread it, and I went, because like, what does it mean to ride the spirit of the times? Like, it's literally like you're hopping onto a time spirit, and then its aim is your aim.
I think of.
I don't know if that's fair.
No, it is. I think of, just because it's in my mind, I've been watching television, like Mad Men very much describes like the riding of the zeitgeist of the 60s, right? The US very much went from a pretty conservative post-war world into a very radical space in the span of 2 or 3 years and kept that momentum going into the 70s at least, with the hippie movement and with the stuff circulating around Vietnam. And like that just was co-opted by so many people, namely the youth culture. But then there were people who were a little bit further out from that, who, you know, also then had an influence and stuff. Was so much slower than they could sit and plan. Yeah. And now it's just like a quick everything's reactionary, right? Far more so.
Okay, well, what did Peterson say in the first 3 minutes, right? He was talking about if you're like being in a state of danger and reacting.
Yeah. If you're in a state of being and reacting, you need to have a pretty good grasp of what was it? Like how to handle that. Like the goal is to have the least amount of stress. And the goal is to have the least, or like to be able to handle those things when they come about so that you take it well.
And I wondered, like, I think so much of the reacting is fake reacting, right? It's like pretending to react.
Yeah.
But I think I'm also convinced that when you pretend, you're running the same pattern, running the same script, you're firing the same neurons, maybe.
If you're writing the zeitgeist and it's all about reacting culture, you're going to hit a point very, very quickly, I think, where some sort of concern, whatever it may be, social, political, cultural, pop culture, you're going to ride that zeitgeist. And there's like, you may start out in a spot where your convictions are true and your convictions are correct. But if you're living off of those highs and you're living off that zeitgeist, you're going to start reacting to things you would never been outraged before or overjoyed about before a certain point. I think about, because it just comes up in my mind. So when I was in high school, I followed like what is now the woke right before they were that, when they were doing like the anti-woke stuff in the comic book world. And it was all
fascinating.
Yeah, I should talk about that sometime, because it's what made me stop caring about politics and made me very much hate everything. Anyway, that was all. It's true. It was all predicated on this is woke. SJWs are ruining my comic books. And I technically rode that zeitgeist. I technically rode it because it made me mad and because I was just getting into that world. And I was aware that the quality of the work was not the same as that which I was reading from the 5-10 years before it. But then I kind of just lived in the outrage with it for a long time until I think I just like stopped. Like I found other things, and I was very quickly like, it doesn't matter. There's a backlog. There's other places by which to explore this, and it's really interesting because those guys are still doing that 5 years later. But they've kind of become the villain, riding the zeitgeist and doing that because that's changing. The currents have changed in that, and now they did the thing that they talked about, like the quarters talked about, of like adopting the tactics of the enemy for their own purposes and stuff. Like they're doing that.
I was thinking about that too.
Yeah. And I think that's part of the consequence of the writing the zeitgeist too, is that you're gonna start picking up the weapons of others and just start using them. And because you're so predicated on just reaction and looking to stir up something or looking to stay in that state, whatever it is, you're gonna blow somebody up with weapons you didn't realize, and you're gonna be like, oh no, I did become the very thing I swore to destroy. I am Harvey Dent in The Dark Knight, you know.
That's so funny. It lines up when you stopped watching Tim Pool. Did you ever watch Tim Pool?
No, I watched all the weird, not Tim Pool. I could tell you the people I used to watch. There's this guy named Comics Matter with your boy Zach. He was like, he was always filmed off his phone. Be like, hey guys, it's me, it's your boy Zach. And he'd like review the comics and had the worst formatting. But he was kind of one of the pioneers for it. And then all these other media outlet guys who were into like comic books, all like Gen Xers, right? He became kind of the cottage core. So Nerdrotic was one that I used to watch, who did cover. He still does, right? It's all rage bait. Here's Hollywood.
Because now he hangs out with like Critical Drinker and that whole like.
Yeah, and they were a part of that too,
thing.
technically. And then all the other guys from the comic world are also whack now. Because the other thing was that they did the Image Comics thing. They're like, we're gonna make our own comics on Kickstarter. And are now coming into contact with the same problems that they lambasted the woke left, right, for, that they're doing that now. They're just as cliquish and caddish as they were, like, as that which they were like decrying at the time. It was him. It was Yellow Flash too. I guess I'm just gonna name all these YouTubers that I used to view. But at the same time, it was really interesting because I was also watching content from those who would be more left in the comic book world, who were more lifestyle friendly and like entering the comic book space. Like I had both somehow, and did both because I was just hungry for that kind of discussion and discourse. But yeah, that was outrage bait for a time. I think I got really angry about some of that stuff, and then my reading recommendations were also Tim Pool is the millennial version. Okay. Yeah, I don't know.
Tim Pool totally is the millennial version. Agreed.
It's just interesting. Like that's a weird period of my life, and that was right before COVID too. I was political back in the day.
So let me pitch this, because also super early in this, Peterson's talking about how, again, I don't remember precisely what he said, but he goes, "You are a collection of warring spirits."
Yeah.
And then this idea of like riding the zeitgeist, which is a common phrase. I've just never thought about it this way. And I'm thinking like, okay, well, if I ride the zeitgeist, yeah, me too. Then like the zeitgeist is a thing which is in control. But then I was thinking like, okay, what about like anger? Because like righteous anger can serve a good purpose. And so it's like, I think I would argue there are times where like stepping into the spirit of anger is like necessary. I mean, even honestly, even when I go to the gym in the morning, if I'm gonna like lift a heavy object, it's like getting angry is helpful to like just the process of squatting. If I'm like too calm, then it's like I don't have like the fire in my bones to like stand back up with weight on my shoulders. I think it's Sam Tiedemann over at Transfigured that, at least that's, I hear him say, I think it's his phrase, but maybe it goes other places. Like use the internet to fight the internet, use the algorithm to fight the algorithm.
Yeah.
And I feel like I have been just completely against the algorithm, and I have not used the algorithm at all. And I've been going back and forth, like, am I too far against? Do I need to take a step towards plunder Egypt? Well, there's an element of that, isn't there? Don't they plunder Egypt before they leave? Well, they don't even plunder it; it's just given to
They
them.
do. Yeah. Everybody's in the midst of the plagues and getting fricked up, and then they start stealing stuff. They start taking the treasures and stuff that they're going to need later, because they use that stuff. Ideally, it was supposed to be for the temple, right? And then they build the calf and they do some other stuff. But a lot of that is collected as they're leaving. Yeah.
What's this box? Because it's all. Sometimes I forget that Neil only
This-
speaks in puns.
What's this? This Bax monopolizing the chat.
He said backs. I read box.
He said Bax, not box. Yeah,
Not
no one
even a
else
pun.
is playing.
I was expecting a pun. I didn't get what I wanted.
Listen, Neil, if you want to play, drop some comments in the chat. We're answering really hard-hitting questions tonight. All we wanted to do was listen to Peterson.
No. If you want to play, you get on screen. That's how it works.
Oh,
That's how
shoot,
it's
you're
always
right. Hold
worked.
on. Copy
I
the
learned
link.
it from the two of you.
You're right. Sorry. Copy the link. Copy the link. Boop. You want
Bible
to
study
get
Bax,
nuts?
bro.
Let's get nuts. Anyway,
Okay, well, we my entire family has arrived. We made it 29 minutes in this isn't 2 hours because you were like talking to yourself for 20 minutes.
yeah. Hour and a half.
Ah,
So if Ethan has to leave, I'm going to keep the stream going. I'm up all night. It is a summer vacation. I don't have to do anything tomorrow.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we get. Sorry. Hi, Neil.
Hey guys. Can you hear me okay?
yeah.
Cool.
I'll
Yeah.
just stop streaming the Jordan Peterson stuff. We'll come back to that. I think 25 minutes of the course syllabus was enough. We got a lot of stuff out of that.
What did I miss?
A lot.
Well, okay, Neil. So Henry and I are going through maps of meaning, like from tip to tail. Henry's never seen any of it. I've gone through it. Whatever.
Have you found
7
out
years
where
ago.
the map? Have you found out where the map leads?
God is consciousness. I don't know. No, we're in the syllabus right now. We have three major assignments. We have an autobiography, we have a future and past authoring, and an essay to do. And I already started doing the homework today. I started future authoring already, and I didn't even realize it.
Yeah, and it's only $15 to actually do the future authoring, which is still active. So, and Henry might be sold.
I think I might.
Peterson might be $15 richer.
Exactly. Thank you for the $15. I hope you enjoy my program I don't do anymore.
I actually did it. I did it, the writing maybe I think around 2018 or 2019. I remember that it was like a while after I had my big Peterson experience. Even though, like, to me it felt like a while, but it actually isn't that much. Like it's been a lot more since then is my point. But like it felt a while, like after my initial epiphanies with Peterson and God making his move in my life. And so by that time I felt like my life was already trending in a better direction. It was helpful. Like the self-authoring was helpful, but I did feel like the practices that I was doing in my faith at that time were more essential to me continuing down the right path. But I think if I didn't have other events in my life occur, like my brother's passing, it probably would have been all the more essential that I do it. Like there was a sufficient amount of damage in my life done to like get my attention back focused on the things I needed to care about, if that makes sense. And whereas like and so like ideally, we were just talking about this in our Bible study, actually. Like, today's well, we were talking a lot about the Holy Spirit because this upcoming Sunday is Trinity Sunday, and the reading is from John. Oh man, I'm blanking. I think it's like John 16, where
Is it the high
Jesus is
priestly
like,
prayer?
what was that?
It's the high priestly prayer.
Well, he's saying that Jesus is saying that I'm sending my spirit, and my spirit will speak truth to you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about how, like how can God be the most humble, basically? Like how can, so God is the most powerful and the most loving and the most this and most that. And like, how can God be the most powerful and most humble? And I think it's something like, if God can accomplish something without anyone knowing what God's doing, when God's doing it, that's what God will do. Meaning, if it could just simply be someone who speaks to you, and then you are nudged along the path or pushed along the path, that's enough. If it doesn't have to be. I told Henry a story about a ladybug like landing on my hand, which is like the tiniest possible thing, but like, yeah, if it's just enough. And I guess where I'm going with this is like the Petersonian, like sometimes that was enough for a lot of people to like clean their room. Like that was enough to just get them on the path, like that alone, to get them in a better direction. And yeah, so sorry, I gotta lock up my church. Do you guys want a tour of my church?
Sure.
No, I'm serious. Like I will give you. I've never done this before on stream, but I have to lock up the church because the last person from our Bible study left. But now it's just me, so I can like give you a tour. Except it's like thunderstorming outside, and so I have to like. Yeah, if you see flashes of lightning, rolls of thunder.
Rolls of thunder.
You guys know Revelation song? Yeah.
Yeah, I know that one.
If the cops don't get called on you during this tour, then synchronicity is not real.
Yeah. No.
We need a second Ron Copperman event.
It's a Ron Copperman. Yeah. So I don't want to like stand out in the rain too long, but let me park in the handicapped spot. No, I can park in a spot that's not handicapped, and then so my church suffered hurricane damage from several years ago, and we're now only finally getting repairs because insurance is ridiculous. The Archdiocese of New Orleans is bankrupt. There's a lot of factors that have gone into that. Now we've got a question on the chat.
Let's go. I
was like, Catholics do Bible?
Yeah. So like, look at my boarded up church. So
can we highlight this chat? Here we go.
Turn the screen. Are you getting the full view?
Yeah, now we are. We got that full screen view now.
I'm going to go to the front. Despite the flashing thunder and me braving the elements, I'm going to go to the front and show you guys.
Oh my goodness.
So, can you see it?
Yeah. Look at that. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's a pretty church. It's nice.
It's got that stonework.
Always, Jesus tells us to strive always to enter through the narrow gate, but unfortunately, I don't have keys to the front door, so I have to go in through the side door to get into the kingdom. So I'm gonna do that. I'll give you guys a tour. Actually, I just locked up, and now see what you're making me do, Henry, is making me reopen the church.
What?
For you.
Thank you. This is the quality content that people come for.
I have to go. I have retroactive FOMO. Goodbye, all.
Bye, Ethan. Thank you for playing.
See you, Ethan.
Gentlemen, welcome to the show. Welcome. Let's do that highlight of Neil's church.
I have to, in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, I have to the sign of the cross. It's pretty dark in here, so I don't know. Oh, this is our baptism font. You can probably see that because it's well lit.
Oh, here we go. No, I'm doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Are you able to see? Sorry, I can't.
Yeah, now we got it. Wow.
Okay. Yeah. So it's our baptism font, and I think we're doing an exhibit of the history of the church where every painting, we have these paintings from a local artist that were donated to the church a while ago. And I think we're doing one, well, there's one painting for every 100 years. And so over 20 weeks, we have a different painting in the history of the church. So I think this is starting with the crucifixion, and then next will be Pentecost, and so on and so forth. These are basically for prayers for vocations. So people take the crosses home and do prayers for vocations, being like priesthood and religious life, nuns, etc. And this is, you can see the altar behind me. Okay, cool. So yeah, so this is the altar, and this church is exactly 100 years old, or maybe 102. I think it's close to 100 years old. I'm not going to turn on the lights or anything, because then people will be like, what's going on in the church? But hopefully you can see the altar there. And we have a statue for Mary, Mary Help of Christians, on the left-hand side, and a couple other statues, Saint Joseph and Saint John Bosco, who is the patron of our order, which is called the Salesians.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't want to turn on like all the lights and stuff.
Yeah,
But
Sam wants to see the
Neil.
stations.
Yeah.
Neil, are you in New Orleans proper?
No, I'm on the other side of the Mississippi, so it's the West Bank.
Okay. My brother-in-law got married in one of the churches downtown, Catholic churches downtown.
Yeah, it's like our church is like it's a humble community church. It's about 100 years old. It's not a big there are some really big, beautiful, fancy New Orleans churches, but despite being a humble community church, it does have a lot of beauty, because a lot of the churches that were built around where I am, they were built in like the 60s, 70s, where you have a lot of postmodern influence. Like I don't like it. And this is before that. Like this church is like 100 years ago. It's more classical. It's got pillars.
It reminds me of the what's the vampire movie with Tom Cruise?
Interview with the Vampire.
I mean, it's got a
vibes.
New Orleans feel to it. It definitely.
That's a good book. I'm going through that right now.
Wait, let me see. Can you get the vertical view of that?
Yeah, let me do that full screen again, or solo layout view again. Yeah. Can you show Sam the stations? He wanted to see the stations.
Oh, stations. It's dark. I don't want to turn on all the lights, but like we do have the Stations of the Cross. Like maybe you can see.
There's one sort of.
This is Jesus Condemned. I don't know if you can see that.
No.
Let me go over to Station 1. I'm supposed to bow before the altar as I cross. Jesus. Oh no, this is the final station. Sorry, Jesus Entombed. Can you see that? It's a little bit lighter over here, but I don't know if you can. Barely. Yeah. Anyway, I apologize for my.
No, you're good. This is quality content.
I figure, I've never done this for anybody else's stream, Henry, just you. So
I love that. Thank you. This is great.
Yeah.
I'm going to become the Adult Swim of the corner. Just experimental, strange content. Not that it already isn't everywhere else.
Yeah. I'm going to mute while I lock up and stuff. So.
Okay. Let's see. Let me fix the layout. There we go. So everybody is on equal playing fields. I didn't expect to get as much as I got out of the syllabus overview for Maps of Meaning, and yet here I am. I thought that was really cool. I also don't think we'll ever finish this.
Yeah, it was its own zeitgeist, man.
I remember the 2020 stuff, like when it was bubbling up, like after he was out, with like the in Russia healing and stuff. Like I remember that era, but I'd completely missed, because I was in high school and my concerns were in other places, I guess, at the time. But when I was aware of him, I kind of like had gotten like an info dump summary of everything that had happened to him up to that point, mostly through the corner.
Yeah, that's interesting. For me, it was interesting. We were talking about the algo earlier. Like, I don't think I did like a YouTube playlist of Peterson. it would just feed me. You know, I would just watch one. I'd watch whatever it fed. Like, so I got tons of. I didn't like take the course per se, but I watched like
Yeah.
everybody else that was in that in that moment. I just was watching it like almost constantly. So, um, I think I even do remember like listening to the syllabus. Like, what am I doing right now?
I missed that. Him being like, you're gonna want to stay up to date on the lectures and the readings. Like I remember this. I remember doing all the English courses and every
Yeah.
class I was reading something, given my degree.
I think in
Being
a
really
certain way,
intensive.
it would be very humanizing for people like what you're doing for people to go back and just watch him be a professor. You know, um,
Yeah. I don't really care about what he's doing now, but this has been really sweet to watch. Like I might get YouTube Premium just so I can do the podcast thing and like listen to these as like my driving stuff and
I
put
would.
like PVK stuff on hold for a while.
I think it's a good like it would be a good way to focus on something and try to like get a kind of deep, kind of that some of that deep learning or deep focus. You know, like on something
Yeah.
specific. I get the sense that's what this kind of is in a way, and it's hard to do that. It takes discipline now because there's. I mean, everything's designed to like just 20 minutes, 15 minutes, 5 minutes. You know.
This was the stuff I lived for in high school, though, I will say, and like
Yeah.
early college. When I was on my own and doing stuff, like before I had friends in college, I would like play like Ghost of Tsushima, like a video game, and that would be my tactile thing to do just so that I could listen to something.
Yeah, that's I think that's very Zoomer. That's what all those redeemed Zoomer videos are like. He's playing Minecraft, doing
Playing
that. You know?
Minecraft. Yes. Yeah. I don't know. Well, because it's weird because I guess I could just sit there and listen to something. But maybe that is I am a product of this generation, because otherwise I'll be like in my closet working on like a Lego project, and that'll be my like kind of background task.
Well, it's not much different than Minecraft.
It's way different than Minecraft. It's IRL.
Remember, embody. Do physical things with real blocks.
I agree.
Yeah, no, I'm the video game guy, so but I'm saying that, yeah.
Well, like even with the video game thing, I wasn't doing story campaign stuff. Oh, are you saying something, Christian? You like went out. Mark S is looking at his physical phone. That's true. What is? I think Seabax, you cut out because I think you're saying something, and I can't hear anything.
Are you hearing any background noise from me, or?
Yeah, I
is it
can
okay?
hear your noise. Yeah, you're good. No, you're good. It's just like rain.
Okay.
That's it. It's like
Okay,
ambient.
okay.
You know,
I can-
lo-fi
yeah, I
chill
can-
beats.
A little lo-fi, yeah.
Yeah,
can-
chill beats to the corner. Oh, now it's gone. Never mind.
Okay, fine. I'll bring back the chill. There you go.
Like
You got
no,
the woo,
keep
and
going.
then you got the chill.
Exactly. That's what we're here for. I don't want to say the house of chill. I was going to come up with something else, but I don't have it. So
Sprinkling rain on a roaring fire. Henry's channel, strange singing without desire.
careful, that'll become some sort of branding.
Many times. It's not Christmas.
Season's greetings
Not
to
today.
you.
Yes. Actually, it was Pentecost, which is also a red holiday, but nobody was
go.
wearing red
Oh.
except for me on McMo's stream.
As Mark S said, like every great rock band, the early JBP stuff is the best. You know what? As an indie underground kind of guy, yeah.
Yeah, but the first JBP stuff is the his Maps of Meaning series, and before he was famous.
Before
And
it was cool.
I think the Genesis lectures. Well, man, I'm biased, so maybe his Maps of Meaning stuff is probably where he's talking about Tiamat and Marduk and yeah, I think maybe that is some of his best stuff. But I do feel like he spent 30 years in the college pressure cooker refining his craft, and then he's been waiting to talk about religious ideas for that long, but he knows he can't do it earnestly in a college setting, and then he busted out, all of his ideas in a religious framework, and that was the magic of the Genesis series.
That's fair. So when does he become like New Green Day and he sells out? I mean, it's pretty quickly after that, I guess. But like,
I would say after his illness, or even before his illness, he was on tour and stuff like that, touring.
Yeah.
But
so is his Genesis lectures American Idiot, or is American Idiot like the sellout era?
Did you pick Green Day specifically because that was my favorite brand growing up? A band growing up.
I did that because I really like Green Day, and American Idiot was like one of 2 albums in my car in high school that was like the soundtrack of my life for like 4 years.
Okay, that's a ridiculous coincidence, Henry, because like Chad always makes fun of me for this, but like I love the American Idiot album. I think the American Idiot album is one of the best albums ever made.
Correct.
Now Chad will ridicule me for that. It's like, okay, fair enough, but it's an opera.
It is.
It deals with the meaning. It deals with the meaning crisis perfectly. The American Idiot album, the Jesus of Suburbia, man, like Saint Jimmy. I learned to drum on the American Idiot.
That's
album,
awesome,
man.
And it's so cool because it's
out of after college. Yeah.
What's great too,
and I'm not even kidding. That like, yeah. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, you cut out a little bit, so I didn't know you were talking. Go ahead.
I just want to rave about this album because it's one of my favorite things. It's so good. It is absolutely about the meaning crisis, because how does that album end? It ends with like any idea of some importance or like weight to this like underground rebellious movement like doesn't matter. This kid's a loser. He has to come home anyway and just like become a slave to like the system regardless. Like that's what Homecoming's about. Like it all sucked in the
Homecoming. Yeah, but it's a beautiful song, man. Like the Homecoming is a beautiful meta modern song. Yeah. Home. We're coming home again.
At the facility on East 12th Street.
Oh,
not listening. So
good. Again. And while he's cursing in the background. Right?
It's so good. I have it on vinyl.
Yeah, we could totally do a breakdown of the American Idiot album at some point.
Hey, I'm gonna put don't joke about that. I'll do it here. This is
yeah. No, I agree. Like it nailed the meaning crisis, and I'm surprised it's you because that was the meaning crisis of my generation. So I like you're that was 15 years ago, man. That was 20 years ago now.
Look, I'm telling you, I am an honorary numerous things. I sit at bars that are designed for Gen Xers and listen to 90s grunge and alt rock. Like I am not a Zoomer, truly.
Yeah, I was at odds with all the kids in my classes that listened to Nirvana. Like I couldn't stand typical grunge and the like I couldn't stand it. Anyway, sorry. Chris, go ahead.
I was a straight up I just was emo. I was the emo kid. 100%.
Yeah, but emo had good music. Like My Chemical Romance.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even listen to them. I listened to like a lot of really indie bands that didn't make it out of the indie scene. The My Chemical Romance, like Jimmy World is probably like the archetype of emo for me, like as far as that stuff goes. Them and Taking Back Sunday.
Oh, Sam said that 20th Century Breakdown was like a good album. I don't know if I like all of that album, but there's a couple really good tracks off of that one. Like it doesn't.
Is that the album with 21 Guns and Know Your Enemy? Yeah, I mean it was decent. That was the beginning of the end for Green Day for me. Like I started losing interest after that album.
Mark S says Christian only listen to bands we've never heard of, which means that's you're just cool like that, you know.
Yeah.
I 20th Century Breakdown, like that track off that album I really like. What else is on that one that I think is pretty all right? I like not Life Before the Lobotomy. It's
Is it
right
Wake Me
along.
Up When September Ends on that one?
That's
That's
from
on-
the American Idiot album.
Yeah.
Yeah. I loved Give Me Novocaine, which is
Yes.
that's drain the pressure from the swelling. This sensation's overwhelming. It's also
Whelming.
that's the song that I had to learn how to do a syncopated drum beat. It's got a very weird bass to it, and that was the song that kind of drove me mad for a while because I was trying to learn it's a simple drum beat, but it's offbeat, and that but it was a really good song to learn that.
One of my favorite tracks off of American Idiot is what's it called? Letter Bomb is really good, but then I also like Extraordinary Girl. Both of those like paired together are in my mind. I'm like, yeah, this is really good. I had a moment one time I was talking with somebody and I was like, I probably shouldn't have a girlfriend right now. Because I was like, you know that song from the American Idiot? Do you know this song? They're like, no, I don't know this song. Like, you know, Extraordinary Girl. I'm like, I'm the guy in that song. Like, it would not be good for anybody. Like, and that is why.
Yep. Well, that's cool. We got another point of commonality that I did not realize. But I am reaching my wife's aunt's house, which is our dinner hangout spot. So I got to go for a late dinner.
Awesome
sauce. It was good
Enjoy,
catching
Neil.
up with both.
Well,
Thank you, Christian.
Neil,
and I think you inspired me, Christian, giving the tour of your church and all that. And so thank you. That was really cool.
Yeah, dude.
And I really admire the heck out of what you're doing, Christian. So yeah, remember embody. I think you're doing the real thing. You're doing the work. You know?
Do the work. Do the work.
Yeah.
Thanks, Neil.
So. All right. Well, peace out, gentlemen.
Bye, Neil.
Henry.
Oh, did we lose Henry? Did I say bye to Henry and he just dropped off his own stream?
No, I'm here. I'm still here.
He's typing something. I don't know what he's doing.
Oh, gotcha.
No, wait. I'm here. What do you mean? I'm typing something.
Have a good night.
I just hear noises. I don't know if where their noises are.
I think it's the rain from me. So.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Here comes the rain again. All right.
See you, dudes.
See ya.
Bye, Neil. We listen to the No Fun Monday tracks.
Henry. Dude, I watched. So is this on your channel? This isn't on Ethan's channel?
This is my channel.
Okay. I watched something you did, I don't know, a month ago. Did you just start making kind of corner videos like a month or two ago?
Yeah, I started. I've been lurking for so long, and I had booted up this channel ages ago, and then finally found a reason to use it. Bye, Ron. Was it the TCG video? Like the trading card video?
No. I think it was it something more corner centric? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Let me pull up my videos. My 5
Did you
videos.
talk about you didn't talk about Sunday school, did you? Teaching Sunday school?
Oh, yeah, the corner is model for men's ministry and authentic community.
That was it. That was the one. Dude, yeah, no, not the fun trading card things like the like I've worked in churches like for like 20 years, dude. That's not like that's gonna like be the one that I probably men's ministry in the corner. I'm like, yeah, that's more my speed.
Fair enough. Yeah, I am doing a lot. Well, I was doing a lot with that for a while.
Yeah.
There's not enough momentum right now at our church to sustain it.
Well, just like a men's ministry? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. I have so many problems with my church, and I try to like be really conservative about airing them out because at some point this will be discovered by somebody that I don't want it to be discovered by. I'm sure. Yeah. Despite it being impossible to find my channel.
Yeah, that's kind of the weird thing. Like, I mean, the truth though is the fact that you're doing it. You know, you're not hiding it. You're just not advertising it. There's a certain like, you know, you're not doing it maybe to advertise it. You're doing it for your own personal kind of quest of whatever, and it's like and to connect with another community. And someone finds it, they find it. That's how I kind of had to. That's how I approached it because I mean, I didn't go on like I don't promote this stuff on my Facebook or my Instagram. It's like a different world. It's like that's not what that place is for me. They've always been kind of different worlds, you know, like
Yeah.
but that's I don't know. But that the church stuff is always going to be hard on some level. It's just that's the nature of humanity, and it's also the nature of being an idealist too. If you find yourself in that framework as well, so
I think I'm very much, whether I'd like it or not, an idealist, which makes me really pessimistic as well about things. I think at the same time, you're just like, it won't work.
Yep. I agree, dude.
Because there's only one way this could work out, and this is not the way I wanted to.
We also, you know, control, and then you fill your mind with a bunch of ideas you find out on the internet. Like, it's a rough deal.
It is. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed the church video. I should do more of that because I have things to say. It's hard to do those videos, though.
You there? I think I don't know what that is. I find myself in that place all the time.
Like I can't necessarily just talk in front of the camera without this. Maybe I'm a narcissist without some sort of audience. Like I can kind of ramble on a live stream by myself.
No, we can talk about that. Hold on, let me get in my room. Hey, what's up? I'm on the internet. Oh. Dude. Stay at my sister's when I'm at work. Oh. Still there?
Yep.
Oh.
And you're still here. Cool.
Let's see. We're talking about being a narcissist on the internet.
Like I have a lot of performance. Like I did a lot of performative stuff in like in high school for chorus and things, and so I'm not immune, and I enjoy the attention. But man, like there's something about like the camera too. I don't like it right on my face, and so I don't have to see it, right? But I can kind of monologue to my profile on the screen.
It's all that's real, dude. And just the fact that you're like acknowledging it likely means you're not. But
probably not.
But it still is like, what does it mean to want, you know, I think that's one of the questions about art. And it's like, is it just for you? Is art really just for the person? It's like, there's like, I want to be known, I want to be seen, I want to be admired, or I want to be, you know, all those things.
Well, I think that's broadly more of like just generativity. The want to create something is then like your imprint is there, whether that's kids or the work that you do in any given space, right? It's gonna your imprint's there, and in turn, in some way, you're present in it, and so there can be a pride in that. Like you take pride in that which you've created, or hopefully you do, unless it's garbage, you know. But you know, I think that like with the art too, I think it would be what's the word? Deceitful to just say, hi, Ron. Would it be deceitful just to be like, oh, here we go. To just say like, I'm just doing this for the art, for the sake of the art. Like, no, like part of it is that it goes somewhere. Part of it is that somebody's going to receive it.
Yeah. That's been one of the things I've tried to bring into this space is like, you have to acknowledge that part of you. Like, is it just pure altruism and ministry that you're like, you have to like, just say, I mean, there's part of you wants to be known, or do I have something, you know, that is like, this is something I think about. Am I so in touch with like something that's true that it would be that like a medically powerful that it would go, because like I have like just like do I have that in me, or am I just, you know, am I just a normie? And if I am, do I need to accept that and just be okay with, you know, like all of, I mean, it's a weird thing, but then the corner feels like a place where you can kind of play with that in a way.
I feel that. And like so I can do my thumbnail art and I can do my weird stuff in a way that if I were trying to, like, Christian YouTube or like the other world that I'm familiar with and wanted to try was like Lego YouTube. That's like my
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
I hate that. I hate that so much, and I could not do that in what they do. But I want to create something, and something needs to be generated for some sort of recognition. I like seeing comments on the videos, and I like what I wanted. What I want is the community. What I want is that discourse. Like when I was a kid, I'd be like, I'm going to become. I want to be a famous writer, but it's so I can go to a Comic-Con panel and let people ask me questions about my work because I want to hear what they think about it and what it's done,
Yeah.
and like share about it. Like that's the thing that I think I've
Show and tell.
altruistically really like. You
Show
know,
and tell.
yeah, show and tell. Look at this cool thing I made. You guys like it? You know.
Yeah.
So
And
there's
we Chad has been big on that for a long time, and I do think this is one of the, I don't care if a lot of people watch, but I had a few no one watched, and that was tough.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's true. So it's this thing that Paul, I don't know, probably 9 months ago, Paul was kind of asking the question, like, should I keep doing randos? Like, should I don't know if you heard him talk about that. And my Dunbar number is always getting squeezed, and so names are constantly like falling off the Dunbar number.
Yeah.
In this what Corner Citizen, which he hasn't played as much lately. I can't remember. He was like, Paul, you should keep doing randos, if not only for the sake of example.
Yeah.
Because I think that I don't know if y'all were we were hitting on it just a little bit ago, but it was like what that, instead of Paul like always reaching up, I was trying to like point at this earlier. Like he would reach down and it would like almost, they weren't as successful. They didn't get his channel as much, but it created trust and it created a deeper community of people.
Yeah.
And it also gave the people that come on a type of agency that when you're just even like what you're talking about the kind of that vulnerability with your church, or people like, what do I say? How much do I say? And what if somebody sees, like all that stuff? The fact that you're even saying that out loud on the internet is a new level agency that you didn't have 6 months ago.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things about the rando, deep in this corner culture, the rando is what, because someone was saying, it was Ethan, like that telos of the grind of following the zeitgeist and reactive media and all that, which I mean, Paul does that too. But then, and he also talks to people that have more like, subs and all that stuff. But then he also will have somebody on that's never even talked on the internet, that has no account, no subscribe, like,
yeah.
And that is for anyone that's trying to like do ambition as number one. If you're going to have the ambition to embody whatever the corner is, that is a reality. That's something I had to like really work through for myself, and how I've been doing stuff and playing. And like I think the biggest example was when I talked to Benjamin Boyce, and then the next week I talked to Afrael, and he'd only been on like a few streams, and then Paul like just he like pumped that episode of me and Afrael like for like a week and a half or something. I don't remember. And then I gave him like some energy and dopamine or whatever, and some motivation to be seen and to be experienced and but it got a lot, and it built trust for me. It's like, oh look, Baxter is talking to a guy with 100,000 subs like out of nowhere. And then so those were like lessons. I mean, and you contend with those spirits like inside of you. You already have named some of it, like, and it's just that's what's really, I mean, it's really interesting, powerful, all these things about this space.
I think those same contentions exist in the ministry, I find. So like I teach the young adult group, and I've kind of been in a point where I'm like, just tired, and I don't have the same drive for it. But it was bred out of, I know a thing or two, I can teach, I like it. Look at this cool stuff I can kind of dig up, and some of that is a pride of like I'm capable and competent in that. What it turned into is very much being like responsibilities that never want to being thrust on me, but a long term. But that's another contention that always exists, and so
Yeah, it
like
is. And that's the interesting thing about churches. I work at a hospital, and then I've been involved in ministry. Hospitals never shut down,
yep,
and churches meet every week. And it's like there's
Yeah.
not a like that. There's a grind, to like that rhythm. And church is in a way performative, like you're saying, like in its nature of teaching, exposition, music. All those things are performative, and so it is baked into all of that, like you're saying, and it's definitely that's one of those questions I was always wrestling with. Was like, I'm supposed to be a worship leader, but I'm like trying to promote myself. I don't understand how this like, what is that? Related to the modern worship market and all that stuff.
yeah.
So
Yeah, that's in and of itself an art too, technically,
Mm.
right? And so then therefore you do need to like assume that it needs to go out to people. It needs to be received in some way.
yeah, I mean, it just depends on what you're doing. Like I never really liked writing music. I just covered all these people's songs, and then people would like be like, "Hey, come to our church and play all these cover songs." Maybe play it, whatever. Like I don't know. It's weird. That was a weird thing because I didn't feel like super creative because I was just covering people's music all the time. And then people would look at you and be like, "Oh, you're a creative person because you play music."
Uh,
So that was weird.
You know what I don't miss? I don't miss doing worship team, at least right now.
What did you play?
I sang.
Because
I did,
you said you had done choral.
yeah, for 6 years I did chorus in high school. And I did like the show choir track. That was our thing at my high school. And so I did solos and ensembles like every year and competed in like the district and state level.
Yeah. What state are you from?
Florida. Or I've been living here for like 18 years. I was born in Washington State, but I've been here for ostensibly like,
You did, yeah, like all
75.
region or all district, all state. My daughter she's going into 9th grade, but she's done the all region and she's loving choir. I didn't get into choir till my junior year of high school. We did barbershop and had a lot of fun.
Oh, that was fun. Those were great. Those workshops were great. My friend did all state, and I remember I probably didn't apply myself. I could have gotten in, and then I like failed the.
You probably
sight
could
reading
have.
portion.
Yeah, I got like first reserve for male chorus, which was like way. And I got in. I was like out of 50 chairs or whatever it was. I was like 49th or whatever.
I didn't want to do that though. I didn't want to sit in the practice room in a hotel for like 3 days straight.
Yeah. It was fun. Arkansas is probably a little more low key than Florida 6 years ago.
The county and the districts I was in was really low key. There wasn't anything crazy we were doing. It's interesting. So we used to go to a middle school for the district competitions like every year at the time in an area south of it. And now I live like right down the road from that middle school in the shopping center that we used to drive by these exits all the time for competition. That's the weirdest thing. I'm like, oh, I used to go there. I used to go stand in the lunchroom and wait for the results of the show. Really, that's a weird phenomena, but it's pretty low key.
Choir's a lot of fun. I did a lot of church choir. That's something I miss. Like I remember doing the traditional institutional kind of church. Like I really, really thought about that a lot. How formative it was for me. Even though it was like I was into the rock thing and I got, all this kind of like more like passion and attention in a certain way. But like I had so much fun we did like 2 choir tours at my church. We did, we would do seasonal stuff in the high school, and our music minister at the time, he kind of had that background with like kind of more theatrical background. And it was so much fun. And I was formed a ton by it as far as even like what you're talking about, having that performance kind of like you know, just what that is to get in front of people and to be, and even, you know, it's analogous obviously to sports and stuff where you're like you were talking about with ensemble and choir and team, like all that stuff is analogous and doing that together and totally.
It's interesting. That was one of the few things, like even now looking back and up to this point, like that was one of the few things that I did for myself. Like
Mm.
I never like publicized or made it clear to like my family of like, please come and see these things. So they very rarely saw my performances.
Hmm.
One, because I don't think I wanted it necessarily. I never practiced around them. And like I was always fine with them not being there. Like it was just me and I just wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And I didn't care like if anybody saw it. So like my senior year, my goal was to get a superior at state. Not for anybody else. It was just because I wanted that. Because I'd gotten excellence like every year before or whatever. And I was like, if I can just finish my senior year with the one thing I wanted to do, and I did it, and that was really cool and really satisfying. And like that was it. That's all I wanted to do my senior year, other than like graduate, obviously. But you know, but it was just for myself. And I don't know, like when you do, I guess going back to like the ministry and even like music and stuff, you know, even if it starts at that with like teaching, like, oh, I want to teach Sunday school just because I want to, like, it almost isn't that. Like you can't be that.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. Like doing something because you want. I mean, that was kind of like doing this podcast. I was like, I just want to do this. I'm just gonna try. That's what I
Yep.
want to do. Wasn't and but I've had other things like that. I mean, I would go to like church camps when I was in like high school. I just go by my like the first one I ever went to, which I had this really intense spiritual experience at, was like 15. But I was the only guy that signed up for my church, and we went, and because there was like such a low sign up, we went with the other Baptist church.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like literally like the only guy from my church, and I got roomed with some random kid from another youth group that didn't have somebody that was like wanted to room with him or whatever. But it ended up being amazing, and it really taught me something like uh about how much fun, like when you don't have the pressure of certain other like expectations of either your friends or what you can be you, like you can do it for you. And I mean, I'll be on in a certain way, like going to ARC this past year was kind of like my wife was like, I would go to movies by myself. Like I can do a lot of things and like that. And you know, that was that's always been a part of me. And I feel like I can really, it's kind of selfish in a way because like, you know, you're not sharing that technically with like say my family or something, but I was like, I can really focus in on something in a certain way when I do that, like on the experience.
Yeah.
And I feel like some people are so self-conscious in those, if you're by yourself, that it's hard. You feel like you need somebody to like be with, you know?
Yeah.
But you know, doing those things, quote unquote, for yourself.
I have that with certain tasks. I'm really self-conscious about some of like, I need somebody here. Like it's very rare for me to like sit down and watch a movie by myself or television by myself. Unless it's something that I've seen before and I'm familiar with, just because it's kind of just comfort food type stuff. And so then other activities I'm more inclined to do independently, whether that's reading or writing or doing this or doing the, I guess it's technically not by myself though, because I'm like live streaming and creating this kind of stuff.
It's a weird, you are doing it, you know, there's not like somebody there necessarily. Maybe you don't, maybe your friends don't even really know that you do this or something in that kind of way. Yes.
But at the same time, you know, in like public spaces. So the other night I was at like at a space and I had live music and I was just kind of sitting there and I was like able to enjoy that by myself. And I was like, yeah, other people were there obviously, but it was not that I had other people with me. It was just me and I could like sit there as long as I wanted to for the sets. And that was really nice.
What are you talking about?
I was just at like a bar and they had music. Somebody was hired, a local artist, to perform there, and they were really, really good. And so I just kind of sat there for as long as I wanted to, and then I left when I wanted to, and it was really nice.
It is.
And I've got a concert I'm going to at the end of July. I'm really excited for, and very much doing that by myself again. Same kind of.
Who are you seeing?
You know who Jess Ray is? All right, it's time to plug my favorite artist again. Second time on the show.
Jess Ray. I don't know Jess.
No? Oh man. She does like indie folk Christian music. That's her vibe.
I might, but I'm just not cool when it comes to music.
I've listened into her for 4 years now. A guy that I knew in my college ministry put me onto her music.
I bet
When I was
I bet my wife has listened to her. Let's see. What was that? Jess Ray?
Mhm.
Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there it is. Yeah, my wife follows her.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah. I probably have heard something by her because of her, but
Oh man,
is she kind of funny or
I
silly?
don't know. Not
I
really.
actually just saw something by her just the other day. Oh, here's one with Ellie Holcomb.
You know what? I know she's done some collabs. I haven't seen a whole lot of like her Instagram stuff. I don't use that a whole lot, so I'm not privy to kind of the social side. She did a podcast though when one of her albums came out like 3 years ago that was really good.
Kind
As
of
like a
one of those
companion
COVID
piece.
podcasts.
It was post-COVID, and it was a companion to her release. So like she had like 10 episodes, and they were all correspondent to like one of the songs on her album. So they were thematically connected in terms of conversation and discussion. And like that was like very corner-esque before the corner. Which was really before I was in the corner when I discovered it, because it was a couple years afterwards. But there's some really good gems out of that I was like, this is very much really easy to listen to.
What's your corner story, man?
What is my corner story? Yeah. Guess I haven't done a randos yet. I did the thing with Ethan, and that I'm not going to count that, as much as I loved that, because that was all over the place.
Was that like the game show? Did y'all do one of his game shows?
Yeah, I was the test monkey for the game show.
Gotcha.
Anyway, yeah, my corner story. So in 2020, my friend put me onto Peterson, mostly for the politics, because he was still kind of into that at the time. And so it was all of his like news circulation stuff.
Plugging in my phone. Hold on.
Oh, okay. I'll pause. We'll be back after these messages.
No, you just keep going.
Okay, never mind. I thought you were walking away. Anyway, so like all of his stuff right after Bill C-16 and him on like the European networks and stuff, everybody getting on his case, like that was the stuff I'd seen, and I was like, oh, this is really interesting. I was a little bit more politically, I was getting out of that at the time, but I was still at a point where I was like, yeah, this is cool. He makes sense. And then very quickly, I like found some of his other like lectures and things, and then I found PVK at some point because I'd watched enough where it got recommended. But I really didn't like PVK just monologuing to the screen and commenting on Peterson, and I think I dropped it. And then some other PVK video came up. It was a randos, and I don't think I knew it was a randos. I thought it was just some guy with some level of prolificity in a world I wasn't familiar with. But it was a really good conversation, and I think that was kind of my gateway in, because then I'd listened to a handful of randos, and then I think I got comfortable enough with like PVK style to be like, oh, this is what he's doing. So then at some point, and I can't remember when, I started listening to him regularly, and like listening to him more than I listened to Peterson, because it was during when he was out of commission, because he was talking. PVK was specifically talking, I think, at one point of like, what do we do now that we don't have new PVK content to comment on? Right? It was the start of the estuary stuff.
And I guess more Peugeot and more Vervaeke.
Yeah. Because, that's right. Because either I got put onto him or my friend got put onto Peugeot at the same time. So all of this, like, I was exposed to all of this in like little bits and chunks, kind of all at the same time, very quickly. And so I've been lurking in the corner for like 3 years. And then I don't remember what incurred it. I wanted to build a channel. I was like, this will be my way into the corner. I made that like one video where I was talking about like a Sunday school lesson, and I was like, well, this is not how I get in. This does not work. And I just kind of dropped it. I didn't have the tech for it. I didn't have the materials. Like I finally bought a laptop that I'm using now that I can do this stuff with. And that was when I got a camera for Christmas. Like now I can do it. Now I can really, really do that. So that was, and I just like jumped onto the House of, no, I jumped to the end of the House of Woo one time because it was on PVK's channel, because he'd happened to be on it, and I was like, oh, there's a link. I'll do that. And that's how I got in. And then after that, I was like, oh, is that easy? Is that easy to get in? So then I just started like showing up on the House of Woo. And then I started making videos like almost immediately after that. I'm like, okay, I got this. Like, this is what I wanted to do. Like, I can process and do this kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's a good outlet, and there's like there's just a feedback, loop of encouragement, and but it's not like, it is what it is. Some of it's what you make of it. Some of it's how much you put into it. Some of it's people have different skills. People have different ability. There's all sorts. People have longer lives, like to spin yarns with, So it's like there's all sorts of different things.
I'm finding very quickly too, and it's nice. I'm not the smartest person in the room anymore.
Mm.
And I really like that. And I probably am in most times in like my church groups. And I don't even mean that pridefully, but like I probably put in the work and do a lot there. And so it's nice then. And because I'm coming from like, I've had to piecemeal like theology together. I've had to piecemeal like my foundations together because it's never been like taught 100%. And so then to come in and like tonight on the House of Woo, like Mark's just dropping his like church history lore of, like the mid-century or certain other periods. And I'm like, cool. I'm down here again. It's really nice to just kind of take some of that in and be in a space.
Yeah.
It's nice because then I can just kind of ask questions and process in a way that I can't in other spaces.
That makes total sense. Yeah. And there is a certain eldership that's being discovered in the space, like where I feel like a lot of the culture, even with Peterson, it's not exactly analogous, but it's like there's like I found it interesting that you and Ethan were doing that video tonight, because many people y'all's age or younger like are just ridiculing him now, and like there's not a hey, thanks man, this was really helpful 5 years ago. It's like he's like, okay boomer, and I'm like, man, that's just a really destructive thing. And so like what you're saying, like with the smartest person, like there's people a few years older than me, or sometimes when it's people younger than you, it's also humbling, and it's like,
yeah.
But yeah, that there's, and when people are gracious towards you, or because there's also times where you're in conversations about really important things and people get, you get passionate or impassioned, and maybe you say something or you to someone, and you have to apologize, and there's usually been a lot of good examples for that as well. And yeah,
I've always been so far impressed by the graciousness of just like being able to have an audience, like and a voice to be able to present that, like Ethan came on last week and I was like processing some stuff with him and was like, thank you for like letting me do that on a live stream with you. And like,
yeah, there's so many the interesting things about the agency of like, I mean, working through something, there's this part of this machinery in your brain or whatever you want to call it that knows this is public, that knows maybe people are watching. I mean, especially if you're running the stream, you can see if people, real time counter or whatever. And it's like, or that it could be seen later, but that's also not a bad thing. And it makes you process in a certain way. And but I think it's also kind of counterculture to so much of how things are done on the internet with like social media, Twitter, even probably a lot of their group like discussion stuff. Like, I mean, there's this hopefully some level of maintain there's some spirit to which it is fruitful.
Yeah. There's that like the question of like the authenticity like always comes up too. Like this is one of the most like genuine spaces in like the production helps, and the lack of social media presence and the lack of any of those techniques, right, existing help with that too.
It's, what's interesting about us, because so my sister and brother just had babies. One was crying. Can you hear that?
No.
That's at my sister's house. And share, like, they don't share that many pictures on the traditional social media kid, which whenever I was having kids 10 years ago, 8 years ago, like, yeah, that's what everyone, all those millennials were, but like, they share on a shared album on your Photos app, and everybody gets like, you get an alert, but it's
Wow.
just our family.
That's cool.
And it's not in the group chat, and you're making an album on your phone.
Huh.
And it's really interesting because I was talking to her last night. I was like, back when social media was still kind of pure in its pure form, because like, I'm old like Neil, and we were in college when Facebook was invented and came out. And there was just like a pureness to it that in a sense is very similar to the corner, where people are just kind of sharing themselves. It's not infused with so much so much, other things, but there is the algo, and there is like, but people don't know that you can use subscriptions as as your Facebook friends.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of, I think, one of the hidden secrets of the corner too, is like, go clean out your subscriptions and just like put corner people in there. Or, and your few favorite little Lego, your Lego channel and whatever.
Yep. Actually, this channel is reserved to corner stuff. I have my own like other Gmail that's like all my whatever's left of my Lego stuff.
That's a great thing, because then you're like, you have two different algorithms working for you that way. I think that's really cool too. That's one of those, that question for Ethan on like making the technology, trying to like wield it a little bit more.
I think that's a good way to do that, because you're not crossing streams and you're not confusing those spaces. It's almost a compartmentalization.
Yeah. Well, you could look at it that way, or you could say this is kind of, these are like two different, it's like going to school and going to church, or like, it's like going to work and going, whatever. What is the Facebook featuring that guy in his white t-shirt? I guess, yeah, whatever that old Facebook. He may be thinking about MySpace with Tom from MySpace.
I couldn't tell you anything about that.
Dude.
It's interesting. And so when like the corner being authentic, like because I know conversation's been like, it needs to be more organized and people have their own intentions for it. I have a friend who like listens to the corner stuff and like in my church, and we hang out and like discuss these things on the side. And he was thinking about it. He's like, it makes me really like upset to think that people want to like do something with this and make it something that it's not. And I was like, yeah, you're right. Because as soon as it becomes,
arc, symbolic world.
Yeah, as soon as it becomes an arc or a symbolic world, I'm out. Like I won't.
Unless you're part of it, Henry. Unless you're part of it.
Oh no.
See, that's the trick, isn't it?
Yeah, it is the trick. Well, you die an independent artist, or you live long enough to become the corporate creator.
Corporate
right?
shill. Yeah, dude. That's
I already work for the state. I don't.
Yeah, I'm wearing scrubs, dude. Oh, I'm a cog.
I can't have a social media presence because my students find it. So like I don't.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like these kind of different worlds you play in, these different spaces. They're not necessarily hidden because people could find it. It's like it depends. Henry, you would have had, coding. Yeah, that was Chad was talking about how he loved MySpace because you could do so much, customization.
Yeah.
Like Facebook was, kind of like Apple. It's like, sorry, this is what you do. And
I probably would have.
Now nothing's like customized, really.
Which is why I love the thumbnail art, and like I really like this whole branding thing behind the corner. And it doesn't have to look professional. It can just be as weird as like I want it to be.
Yeah, and the play on that, and then also over time you do develop a brand. Like there's things you just like, it just kind of happens, and it's one of those. It's fun to just be like to play with the medium that way, and that the pressure's off. Because think about it. I mean, dude, I watched your video or I don't know if I watched all of it. I watched some of it on your men's ministry, right? Like you didn't know I watched. I don't know if I don't think I commented. You don't know I watched that, and it's like there, you know, there's like just encouragement. I don't know, even that word. I've thought a lot about that word, encourage, like to be someone who's putting courage into you. And you know, that with the branding, and there just seems to be that is one of the distinctives, hopefully, is like just encouragement, you know, from people, like, but everyone's human too. It's also like, hey, what's this new guy doing? It's like, is he doing something I could do, or is he or like, oh man, like he's getting a lot of attention. I want some of that attention back.
Yeah.
Like it's like, and if you can't also accept that as a reality and like and even voice it, because that's one of the things I remember I was like, when I had Paul Vanderklay on the podcast, I was like, I know you don't want, you're like, because I said something in the intro like, he's just shy of 30,000 subs at that point. Like, he's like, yeah, like, you know, he was something like, you're bullshitting yourself if you think you don't wish you had something that would go viral sometime. Like, I mean, that's just, you know, and I mean, that's why I pushed back on Luke on some. He's like, if I start caring about this stuff, I will burn it down. I was like, you do. Everyone cares about this stuff on some level. You gotta like let the shadow breathe. And
yeah, you can't. It's gonna be there.
Yeah. So I rib him on that, and then he says something like, because I had another conversation where this girl was basically calling me a tryhard, and I told her, yeah, actually I am. You know, I was like, and so he ribs me about being a tryhard, and I was like, so it's, you know, just gotta be okay. Like everyone has what is also bringing to it, what like your experiences and the things that make you you, and that can also be the cool thing about branding, is if you're like, if that's an extension of that, and you're not trying necessarily to win the algo with all of the, like, you know, you're just like, I can just do this for me, like we were talking about earlier. But I mean, but then it's also fun to be like, I wonder if there is a thumbnail, you know, what if I do try to play the thumbnail game?
I think I did. I think I did with my trading card video. That got like 160 something views.
There you go.
But I know that like none of those were corner things, because only like 5 people from the corner, which were not including my replies, posted. I was like, yeah, there we go.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what's crazy about it.
And then I tried to like bait people in with the Peterson thumbnail last week. I was like, everybody's talking about Peterson right now. Surely somebody will click on this.
I mean, that's one of the things. That's what we were talking about riding the zeitgeist earlier. Like,
yeah.
And
Ethan was so against it too, because I think I did that and we came on. He's like, "But I'm not about that. Like, I don't want to do that." I'm like, "Okay, we don't have to talk about Peterson if you don't want to."
Yeah, I mean,
and now we're doing this,
just hanging out.
No, I mean, we watched Peterson for like 10-year-old Peterson, you know, for like an hour, for 5 minutes, 25 minutes.
Ethan's doing his own thing. He made some waves. I rode the Ethan zeitgeist. That's what I did. I played on that a little bit. Like, oh, dude, you said something interesting on Paul. You just showed up on Paul's thing on, you know, an accident, and then it's like, hey, dude, let's talk. Podcast.
Yep.
This is that guy. You know, like, that's kind of a game too. Like, I mean, if you want to play it, and that kind of stuff. It's all.
Yeah, it's fun to maneuver and figure out what I can do, what I want to do with this. It's pretty neat.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's also no pressure to do anything. Like, I could just not do anything if I want.
Yeah, you could. And sometimes you need to.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's like, you know, like what Chad's been kind of up and down on that. Some people like retire from like CW's like, I'm done for 5 years. Yeah, dude. It's interesting. I mean, even me, I was like, I slowed down for like almost 2 months, and then I've kind of like popped back up a little bit recently. But and yeah, it's just that's part of that. I think that is allowing yourself to be human, to be frail, to not, and also like, what am I doing this for? Like, if I did, like, if I'm gonna try to, am I trying to be successful? And is the success then if everything is how many thousands of views? If every, whatever million, what is that? I don't even know what that is. And the you go back to that question of authenticity is like, how far can I take that? I think that's a question that's worth considering with all this stuff. And like even just talking about your men's ministry or like the church stuff, like those are like authentic, pretty personal things that you're doing. They're religious. They deal with relationships with people. They deal with trying to help deal with your own stuff.
And the problem is everybody's using 20-year-old curriculum that's extremely inauthentic.
What's an example?
Oh man, so
here we go.
The guy that was kind of piloting it, who I've been kind of like under his wing and like setting stuff up, brought in this group called Men of Iron to speak for a weekend at our church.
Oh, is that like a power team stuff? They have swords and like
no, they have books. They don't have swords.
They aren't like breaking stuff and bending like metal bars and stuff.
No, it was like we're men of, and like imagine like the most stereotypical. I'm a guy, like I play football. I like football, and like everything revolves around sports, and like the music and all the ads sounds like it's the Chevy Silverado truck commercial music. So these guys came in from these like large, and they're predominantly built out of like really large churches in the Tampa area. Like that's what their groups are.
They're like networking and creating a business
and selling curriculum.
Yeah.
They came in Saturday. They had this really rough opening like evening of like trying to motivate us to do this thing. Like, you need a game plan. Like men need to come together. Blah 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 blah.
No, and they need like an authoring program.
I mean, that would have been a better use of the time. And then the second, and I was like, this was rough. The second day just was like this awful like seminar plug for their products. That was all it was. And I was insulted too. So like they were like, this is one of our curriculums, like for men's study. It might look like a coloring book, but men really like this because men don't like to read and blah blah blah. And you're like, oh my god, if you're trying to get people to like read their Bibles and grow in Jesus, like don't start saying that men don't like to read. Don't affirm that stereotype if that exists. Like among other things, it was rough.
What's his name? Brandon. He's like a CCM guy. Brandon, big time CCM.
Brandon Lake.
He was on some podcast I saw on the, like Insta Reels or whatever. Like he was like, we need to quit using words like holy, holy, holy because Bubba in the back of the room, like we need more songs that like Bubba can like understand.
That's the attitude.
Yeah, and I was like, holy, holy, holy is like straight up worship in scripture is like gonna pick like a worse, whatever. But it is that kind of yeah.
Amen.
So I was like, I was kind of just like, wow, that is though like the whole thing. Well, if you don't want to reach them, Henry, you don't want to reach men. Is that what you're saying?
No, I guess I don't.
Yeah. So
sorry, I guess I don't.
Brandon Lake's like, you don't want to reach Bubba. You don't want to reach him because if you play my music, you'll reach him.
I'm sure. And yeah, like if you don't use these books, you won't have real discipleship. And you're like, can you define discipleship? Because we've lost the plot on that term too. That's a different discussion that I could get on about. But
I've got community.
Yeah, I would prefer that. I have less of an issue with the word community. At least I have an idea of like what that's supposed to be.
Discipleship. Yeah,
we need to make disciples of men. We need to. Because the other thing too about all these programs is always feels like it's very inauthentic because it's like the goal is to make disciples, to make more disciples, to make more disciples, so we can keep spreading. Like we need growth. It's a very church growth movement.
Yeah, scale, telos of evangelicalism's telos is reach.
I hate it. I cannot tell you how much I'm growing to really dislike that culture and stuff. The longer and that's the only culture I've been in, but I'm really growing to dislike it more and more.
You better watch my video tomorrow.
Okay, I will.
A lot of my stuff been on that. I got a clip with Jordan Hall where I talk about church growth as the gears of Isengard.
Whoa. That's an awesome statement. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. I put my announcement on the notifications for when your video premieres for
Yeah.
set.
That's a big thing is that I really hone in on that. That's kind of one of my specialities in the corners.
You missed it. I went to a mega church on Sunday because I was out of town. I wanted to see what happened, and I had the worst experience there.
Well, it's one of the, what was that? My round table with Ethan, we called it from mega church to parish or something like that. I can't remember. That was whatever. I use AI to like give me video name options based off of the transcripts. I don't even try to like name my own videos.
Oh, I love trying to figure out how to make like a corner-esque title and make it as convoluted and not algorithm friendly as possible.
I don't do that. I'm tapped into the matrix on video titles.
I like the PVK like method a lot. It speaks to my sensibilities.
I think that's like, I don't have that. Yeah, I'm not good at that. I don't think I even recognize it. I remember President Foxman telling me about PVK's video titles and me being like, what? And that's, yeah, I'm pretty normie. There's like a certain like mimesis where I'm really normie, and that's one of them.
My YouTube name isn't even algo friendly. I can't look up my own name on YouTube, or a search bar. So,
what is your
unfocused thoughts on the faith? That's the whole.
I'm like clicked over.
Like that's not. It doesn't come up immediately. Last time I checked.
Yeah. Well.
But I don't want any other title. I've been using. I used to have like a really lame blog spot with this title. So. Or WordPress.
It means something. There's meaning. Yeah, I was just trying to get the numbers off the end of my name, so I put YT for YouTube. And Grim was calling me Whitey, and
Whitey.
And then that's where I came up with yours truly. Was just like trying to do something with it, but it also was trying to feed into like the authenticity thing. And like telling the truth and that kind of stuff is part of our story.
That's cool.
So yeah, meaning. Yeah, dude. Church growth is the gears of Isengard.
Man, I'm right. I'm gonna text that to my friend right now. He needs to hear that.
Go find the clip. Text them the clip.
I will. Church growth is the gears of man. Anyway, I'm gonna try and land the plane. I guess I should probably be responsible and go to bed. I'm gonna land it. This has been really cool. I think this is another one of numerous examples across the 3 hours I've been live streaming of the blessing that the corner is in terms of helping to map out meaning, whether we're looking at Jordan Peterson's maps of meaning or simply having conversations and looking inside churches without their lights.
Churches without their lights. We'll see where that one goes. It was nice to meet you, Henry.
Likewise, Christian.
All right, man. We'll see you later.
See ya. Well, folks, thank you for tuning in for the last couple hours. I hope y'all had a decent time. Oops, I'm going to hide. Randos are the seeds of whatever TLC is. Absolutely. And so if I can be a rando in this or other randos can show up, it'd be pretty cool. Like I said, thank you guys for sticking around for this. Feel free to check it out afterwards after it's done premiering and all that jazz. Stay tuned. I'm going to do more stuff. The lecture reaction is a good form. Yeah, of course. Glad to have been able to do that. I'm hoping to do this again, at least starting next week. I don't know how far we'll get, but I'm really enjoying that. And if we don't finish it, if Ethan and I don't get through this, I think I am going to try and commit to listening to the whole thing on my own in some capacity. So y'all have a good night. God bless. And until next time.